Chapter 1042. Tong Woody's pupil shrank. He felt as if his entire body was enveloped by a terrifying energy, and he felt a chill run down his spine. In his eyes, the dog's paw seemed to cover the sky and the sun. It enlarged unceasingly, attacking him. Next to him, the four city lords had already become incomparably solemn. Facing this dog, they didn't dare to be careless. As city lords, they knew how terrifying this dog was. It should be known that this dog was a formidable existence that could bite a hole in the great path of the Heaven Chief realm. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The four city lords emitted a terrifying aura that could shatter the void. The entire first layer of the Heaven Chief realm trembled unceasingly under this terrifying aura. Tong Woody felt as though his breath had stopped. This was the immortal city's city lord. This was the real existence at the city lord level. Facing the dog's paw, the four city lords roared at the same time, attacking with their own techniques. All kinds of lights collided with the dog's paw, creating earth-shaking explosions. City Lord Feng's eyes were bright. His indifferent face showed a fanatical look. The kitchen knife in his hand swung, and the entire space seemed to be filled with knife light. The knife light slashed at the fat dog behind the dog's paw. Boom! Rumble! Boom! The sound of the collision echoed unceasingly. An earth-shaking collision happened. Dog slaughtering knife technique. Slash! The saber light was like a dragon. With a loud roar, the saber light seemed to have a mind of its own as it gathered together and turned into a large saber. At this moment, the entire immortal city seemed to be in danger. City Lord Mingqi was wearing a long robe. That long robe had immortal energy twirling around it. Her body floated up into the void. Her hands formed a hand seal, and the immortal energy on the robe expanded, covering the entire immortal city. At this moment, the immortal city, which was in danger, stabilized. The four city lords were fighting against the black dog. At this moment, Tong Woody's eyes were filled with heat. Such a scene was rare to see. He didn't know when the four city lords would attack with all of their powers. Zhou Lords, who had pinched his thumb and middle finger, also made his move. In the blink of an eye, the black wok in his hand grew bigger, and he smashed it at the black dog. Boom, boom, boom. The resplendent brilliance was dazzling and eye-catching. No one knew how long it lasted. This battle finally ended the clamor. Tong Woody stared into the distance, dumbfounded. Over there, the void was collapsing unceasingly, and the houses around the restaurant were all turned into ruins. City Lord Feng held the kitchen knife, gasping for breath. His eyes were filled with excitement. Zhou Lords carried the black pot and pinched an orchid in his hand. City Lord Liu, on the other hand, held the black iron bowl with a gentle look in his eyes. The terrifying dog paw slapping down from the void disappeared. It was worn down by the three city lords. You dog, your injuries really haven't healed yet. Is this all you've got? City Lord Feng held the kitchen knife. His chest heaved up and down, and his eyes sparkled. In the distance, Lord Go strode his cat-like steps slowly in the void. His dog eyes calmly looked at the four of them. City Lord Feng's eyes shrank. A moment later, a knife slashed down. The knife slashed, and the dog disappeared. It seemed to become one with the knife, slashing horizontally. The void shattered unceasingly. Lord Go didn't dodge. Facing this knife, he raised his dog paw, slapping forward. He wanted to use his dog paw to shake the dog-slaughtering knife technique. Swoosh! The dog paw and the knife collided. There was no earth-shaking explosion. There was no collision that frightened City Lord Feng. The knife slashed down. Lord Go's body was cut into two halves. What? City Lord Feng's eyes shrank. When the kitchen knife chopped the black dog into pieces, City Lord Feng was very excited. However, after a second of excitement, he realized something was wrong. That black dog couldn't be that weak. His eyes shot out a sharp light. City Lord Feng shouted. However, no blood splashed and no energy poured out. Lord Dog was torn to shreds. In the end, with a loud bang, white smoke billowed, turning into a strand of dog fur that had been cut in half, falling from the sky. Dog fur. The eyes of the four city lords shrank. How could it be just a strand of dog fur? City Lord Feng's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Did his dog-slaughtering knife technique just cut off a strand of dog fur? The dog fur disappeared. The restaurant's door closed. A moment later, a gust of wind blew. Everything was silent. The air was stagnant to the extreme. Tong Woody's entire body shivered. How could it be a strand of dog fur? Impossible. He had confirmed that dog's identity. The other party had a real body. It couldn't be a strand of dog fur. We were tricked. However, that black dog is really terrifying. Just a strand of dog fur forced us to use so many tricks. City Lord Liu pondered for a while, then finally opened his mouth. His voice was solemn. Were they tricked? They were definitely tricked. That black dog had only left a strand of dog fur to deal with them. It didn't put them in its eyes at all. Where's the dog? Where's the dog? City Lord Feng couldn't restrain his anger. He realized that he had been tricked. He felt like a flame was burning on his face. Looking at the restaurant's closed door, City Lord Feng shouted. City Lord Feng shouted and slashed down with his blade. That black dog must be in the restaurant. Rumble. Spirit energy filled the sky, congregating into a kitchen knife. That kitchen knife slashed down, aiming at the restaurant. However, the moment the knife light was about to hit the restaurant, the unparalleled knife light scattered in just a blink of an eye. Rumble. A terrifying rebounding force suddenly burst forth. It hit City Lord Feng, sending him flying backward. He couldn't help but spurt a mouthful of blood. City Lord Mengqi, the Zhou Lords, and the others shrank their eyes. They couldn't believe what they were seeing in that restaurant. Something was wrong with that restaurant. In the Heaven Chief world, on the top floor, in front of the wooden house, Yaya, wearing a brocade robe, was pacing in front of the door. All of a sudden, her mind flickered, looking in a direction suspiciously. There, the void suddenly distorted, and in the next moment, turned into a hole. 3 figures slowly walked out of that hole. The leader was a fat black dog, walking like a cat. Behind the black dog was a bald man and a slender, elegant, and young girl. Yaya looked at the 3 silhouettes, especially the one in the lead. Her eyes narrowed. The 4th layer was where the advancement competition was held. Bu Fong and the others were accommodated in an inn in the inner circle of the Immortal City. The 4th layer's Immortal City was much more prosperous than the other immortal cities. Thus, while strolling around, they could feel the thick commercial atmosphere. He didn't wander around the Immortal City for too long. Instead, he came to the Immortal Tree Square. Each Immortal City had a Heaven Tree Square, and the competition was held at the Heaven Tree Square. This time, the Heaven Tree Square was really lively. Compared to the other layers, it was much more lively. The Heaven Tree Square was also decorated. The 4th layer's Heaven Tree Square was huge. Around the square, there was a slanted audience stand. If one had to give a direct impression, those audience stands were similar to the large stadiums in his previous life. There were seats everywhere. Every seat was filled with people. The Heaven Chief competition was a grand event in the Heaven Chief realm. Thus, there were no empty seats. There were even fierce shouts that resounded endlessly. Suddenly, Bu Fong felt as though he was in an arena. The 4th layer's atmosphere was really different. In a corner of the Heaven Tree Square, there was a huge light screen that shot up to the sky. That light screen was made of arrays, and many arrays operated at the same time. On the huge light screen, it could capture the entire scene in the square. As Bu Fong's assistant, Gongshu Ban held Cece's hand and stood under the arena, looking forward to Bu Fong's performance. Actually, it was already a surprise that Bu Fong could reach this stage. Gongshu Ban didn't dare to hope for too much. He just hoped that in the following time, Bu Fong wouldn't lose too badly. On the vast arena, 200 contestants were already standing. To be exact, there were 190 contestants. None of the top 10 contestants appeared. In this ranking competition, there was no need for the top 10 contestants to appear. Also, the rules of this ranking competition were different from the previous ones. This ranking competition could also be considered a challenge competition. The contestants with lower rankings would challenge the contestants with higher rankings. In this way, they could raise their ranking. Starting from the 200 contestants, they would gradually challenge the level. The 200 contestants could only challenge the 190 contestants, and so on. Thus, it was impossible to reach the sky in one step and challenge the 11th contestant. And since Bufong was ranked 80, he could challenge the 70 contestant, and so on. On the arena, the referee was explaining the rules of this match. Everyone was listening attentively. In this ranking competition, 40 contestants would be selected to participate in the finals of the 5th layer. Thus, the 4th layer's competition was the most intense and also the most interesting. It was also the reason why there were so many people paying attention to it compared to the previous 2 matches. Now, the ranking competition begins. Each of you will have a jade talisman. To prevent the situation of challenging the same person at the same time, each of you only has one chance to challenge. Once you fail, it means that your journey in the Heaven Chief competition will end with your original ranking. So, I wish you all good luck. The referee said. Besides the referee, the judges from the 3rd layer were also present. Bufong was among them, and he even saw little Dit, who was flapping his wings. That fellow seemed to be addicted to being a judge. Bufong got his jade talisman. His mind sank into it, and he began to feel the changes of the jade talisman. The rules of the challenge were simple. As long as you succeeded in the challenge, you could continue to challenge. But if you failed, it meant that you would maintain your ranking, and you would have to get lost. It was a simple and direct rule, but it was the most effective one. Now, it was time for the 200th place to challenge. Bufong's mind sank into the jade talisman, which contained a unified ranking list. Among them, Bufong saw many names flashing with red light. Apparently, these were the people who had been challenged. Leaving the arena for the challengers, Bufong walked to the bottom of the arena. He began to watch the competition. On the arena, the contestants were also in their positions. There was a deafening roar from the audience. This kind of enthusiastic atmosphere made Bufong squint his eyes involuntarily. Soon, the competition went on like a raging fire. Since Bufong had nothing to do, he began to observe the competition on the arena. None of the Heaven Chief who could reach this step was weak. They all had their own cooking skills. When it came to the ranking competition, they would take out their best moves. Hence, these competitions were worth watching. Suddenly, Bufong saw a familiar figure. It was the Black-Cloaked Man. He was the Black-Cloaked Man who had killed Gong Shuban. At this moment, the Black-Cloaked Man was competing with his opponent. It was the same move, the same method. The pressure from the Black-Cloaked Man made his opponent lose his grip on his kitchen knife. Instantly, his skill deviated. His dish was messed up, and he couldn't even trigger the lightning punishment. Without a doubt, the Black-Cloaked Man easily advanced and continued to challenge. Looking at that relaxed Black-Cloaked Man, Bufong's eyes couldn't help but squint. The Heaven Chief competition continued. Bufong was also observing each contestant. All kinds of strange dishes were displayed in front of Bufong. Bufong also benefited a lot. Sometimes, observing creative dishes would also benefit Bufong a lot. Like a wheel, the ranking competition continued. Some challenged successfully to refresh their ranking, while some failed and left with regret. The arena was a cruel battlefield. Only the winner could walk to the end. But all of a sudden, Bufong's token vibrated. Bufong was bewildered, his mind sinking into it. He saw his name on the token start to flash with red light. Bufong was challenged. Chapter 1043. Bufong was challenged. Bufong looked at the red name on the jade talisman, slightly bewildered. Then, his face returned to normal. He was challenged. Well, it was normal. However, Bufong was curious that someone dared to challenge him. In the Heaven Chief competition, he was called the Great Demon. What was the Great Demon? It meant that those who had competed with him in cooking were all miserable. And Bufong had chosen to be high profile in this Heaven Chief competition. He would challenge until the end of time. He didn't expect that someone dared to challenge him. Bufong's heart was a little excited, which was rare for him. My kitchen knife can't wait any longer. Bufong gently exhaled, speaking excitedly. In the next instant, Bufong took a step forward and stepped onto the arena. Gong Shu Ban saw Bu Fong step forward, and he was a little bewildered. Then, he seemed to understand something, his eyes showing worry. What should come would always come. Owner Bu. Finally, someone challenged him. He hoped that Owner Bu could endure it. When he stepped onto the arena, the black-cloaked man had just finished challenging another person, walking down the stage. Bu Fong and the black-cloaked man brushed past each other. Owner Bu, I hope you won't let me down. The black-cloaked man's slightly hoarse voice rang in Bu Fong's ears. Bu Fong was a little bewildered, turning his head to look. He happened to see the back of the black-cloaked man. That back seemed a little familiar. Calling him Owner Bu, it seemed that he was an acquaintance. Except for Gong Shu Ban from the first layer and the people from the Hidden Dragon continent who called him Owner Bu, the contestants in this Heaven Chief competition basically called him the Great Demon. Thus, Bu Fong was very curious. Who was this black-cloaked man? He dared to play mysterious with him. Bu Fong stepped onto the arena. When many people saw Bu Fong, they burst into an uproar. It's the Great Demon. My God, there's actually someone challenging the Great Demon. Who has such courage? I was looking forward to who the Great Demon would challenge. I didn't expect the Great Demon to be challenged first. Below them, many people saw how calm Bu Fong was, and they couldn't stay calm anymore. They whispered to each other, chattering nonstop. At the same time, Bu Fong's face was projected on a huge light screen. Obviously, many people were paying attention to Bu Fong. The audience on the fourth floor naturally did not know who Bu Fong was. However, after Bu Fong got on the stage, many people started to clamor, which made the audience suspicious. When the audience heard the Heaven Chief call Bu Fong the Great Demon, they became even more curious. The Great Demon. Why was the guy on the stage called the Great Demon? What qualifications did he have to be called the Great Demon? The referee looked at Bu Fong. Regarding Bu Fong, he was also very curious about how far this guy could go. To be able to trigger 3 lightning punishments, his talent was really terrifying. However, the monstrous geniuses on the 5th floor could basically trigger 3 lightning punishments. Bu Fong clasped his hands, standing on the stage. The wind blew the hem of his vermilion robe, making Bu Fong look elegant. Where's my opponent? Standing on the stage, Bu Fong waited for a long time, but he didn't see his opponent. Instantly, he looked at the referee in confusion. The referee also furrowed his brows. After a long time, below the stage, a Heaven Chief, trembling, stepped onto the stage. Without a doubt, this trembling Heaven Chief was the one who wanted to challenge Bu Fong. Sir referee, can I say that I challenged the wrong person? However, to everyone's surprise, the first thing that the Heaven Chief said when he got on the stage was to complain to the referee with a bitter face. He had never thought that he would challenge the Great Demon. He had just won a challenge, but he was too excited, so his hands trembled, and he made the wrong choice. The opponent I chose, I have to finish the challenge with tears in my eyes. So what if I win? So what if I lose? The referee calmly looked at that contestant. This contestant had just won a challenge, and he was now ranked 98th. His talent wasn't bad. However, his courage was a little weak. So what if I win? So what if I lose? That contestant wanted to cry, but no tears came out. This was the Great Demon. It would be good if he won, but if he lost, he would lose his knife. Bu Fong curiously looked at that contestant. It seemed that his hands were trembling. Don't be afraid. Relax. It's just a cooking competition, right? Just close your eyes and open your eyes, and it'll be over. Bu Fong's face was expressionless as he said gently. However, his words made that contestant's body tremble. Just close your eyes and open your eyes, and your knife will be gone. I choose to give up. Facing Bu Fong's comforting words, the Heaven Chief didn't hesitate to give up. The resolute look on his face caused the referee to be slightly stunned. Damn it, give up. Why did he give up in the challenge? This was a challenge, so he had to be bold. Without waiting for the referee to say anything, the Heaven Chief turned around and dashed out of the arena. Bu Fong and the referee were left standing in the arena, dumbfounded. Of course, the audience and the spectator stands were also a little dumbfounded. Give up. Someone gave up in the advancement challenge. This was a little strange. This was the first time in so many years that someone had given up in a challenge. This the great demon. Was he really that scary? He didn't move an inch, and he made the challenger give up. Was his personal charisma really that impressive? Actually, I didn't want it to be like this. Bufong helplessly shrugged, then walked down the arena. Gong Shu Ban was excited. He didn't think that Bufong could easily keep his rank. Seeing Bufong come down, Gong Shu Ban hurried forward. Owner Bu, you should consider which contestant you want to challenge next. Your challenge range is between the 79th and 70th place. Don't think too much. Don't be afraid. Just do it. It's just rank 70. Bufong was calm. His goal was the top 10. Since it was the top 10, it didn't matter who he challenged. Rank 70? Isn't it too risky? Gong Shu Ban frowned. Risky? In my eyes, there's no risk. The corners of Bufong's mouth twitched. His mind flickered, sinking into the jade talisman. Without looking at the contestant's name, he directly chose rank 70. On the other side of the arena, a heaven chief wearing a blood-red chef's robe suddenly opened his eyes. A blood-red flame seemed to be dancing in his eyes. Someone wants to challenge me? Dong Fonghua narrowed his eyes. He didn't expect that someone would be so stupid to challenge him. It should be known, Dong Fonghua's goal was the top 50. Dong Fonghua stood up from his seat. As soon as he moved, he attracted the attention of the heaven chief. Dong Fonghua moved? Someone wants to challenge him? No way. Someone wants to challenge that madman. The monstrous heaven chief of the 4th layer. He's the terrifying heaven chief who wants to enter the top 50. Who's that stupid? The immortal chefs whispered in disgust among themselves. Dong Fonghua was cold, his face cold. It was a sharp contrast with his fiery red chef's robe. Striding forward, Dong Fonghua stepped onto the arena. Dong Fonghua was the monstrous heaven chief of the 4th layer. As soon as he stepped out, the audience boiled up. Many heaven chiefs' eyes focused when they saw Dong Fonghua. Xiao Buke also squinted. Dong Fonghua wasn't a bad contestant. His level wasn't lower than his. Who was that stupid? Xiao Buke's eyes moved, wanting to see who was so reckless to challenge Dong Fonghua. However, as soon as he saw it, his eyes shrank. Bufong walked onto the arena. Oh, we meet again. Bufong greeted the referee. You want to challenge Dong Fonghua? The referee was bewildered when he saw Bufong. Then his face became odd. Who's Dong Fonghua? Bufong was bewildered. Then he seemed to remember something, saying, You mean the heaven chief who ranks 70th? I chose him directly. I forgot to look at his name. Turns out he's called Dong Fonghua. The referee was speechless. Dong Fonghua also got on the arena. He saw Bufong. The great demon? Dong Fonghua twitched the corners of his mouth. His eyes seemed to have flames flickering as he said, with a mocking tone. When Bufong and Dong Fonghua faced each other, the entire square was in an uproar. All the heaven chief became serious. No doubt, this match would be a fierce battle between giants. The great demon had shown his ability. Fighting against 49 people alone, his cooking skill was really terrifying. He had reached the level of subduing the enemy without fighting. And Dong Fonghua was a famous monstrous talent of the 4th layer. For a moment, this match became the focus of the entire square. As for the audience, there was a one-sided cheer. Everyone was cheering for him. After all, it was his home match. Cheers echoed unceasingly. The great demon, right? I heard you like chef's challenges. You want to win people's kitchen knives? Dong Fonghua sneered. I can't say it's a hobby. Bufong thought for a while, wanting to say something. However, Dong Fonghua stopped him. No need to say anything. This match is still a chef's challenge. A chef's challenge proposed by me. The kind of chef's challenge where I can win a kitchen knife makes me very excited. Dong Fonghua said, raising his hand. Bufong could see that his hand was shaking. Oh, okay, then let's start, Bufong said, his face emotionless. The audience burst into an uproar. A moment later, the chef's challenge on the stage began. The great demon against the monstrous talent of the 4th layer. Dong Fonghua. It could be said to be the match that made people's blood boil so far. More importantly, both sides had chosen a chef's challenge. Some people didn't understand what a chef's challenge was. Soon, the rules of the chef's challenge appeared on the massive light screen. After understanding the rules, the audience's eyes turned red. Holy sh*T. The loser has to hand over his kitchen knife. This chef's challenge is too cruel. Young Master Dongfang, beat him up. Beat that stinky the great demon. Teach him a lesson. When the great demon's kitchen knife. Let the great demon cry. The audience was so excited, cheering for Dongfang Hua. On the stage, Dongfang Hua's body also emitted a formidable aura. A blood-colored radiance pulsated in his eyes. Then, a blood-colored flame emerged from his body and transformed into a blood-colored flame snake that coiled around his body. The 55th immortal flame on the immortal flame ranking, the Blood Mamba Snake Flame. Dongfang Hua said casually. He raised his hand, and the blood-colored flame moved around his palm. His mind flickered, and a silver stove emerged, falling on the stage. Booming sounds reverberated unceasingly. Immortal energy twirled around the stove, and the other cooking tools also emerged, also shrouded in immortal energy. All of them weren't ordinary cooking tools. Dongfang Hua didn't use these cooking tools in the previous matches. Now it seems Dongfang Hua is serious. When people saw Dongfang Hua's stove and cooking tools, their eyes shrank. Dongfang Hua held a silver kitchen knife in his hand. His finger gently stroked the knife, indifferently looking at Bufang. This is the glory of my life. This kitchen knife belongs to me. High-grade immortal tool, the silver pterosaur dragon bone knife. You can start to feel despair. The corners of Dongfang Hua's mouth rose, revealing an arrogant look. This, the great demon, could be proud of himself for using the silver pterosaur dragon bone knife. High-grade immortal tool. The surrounding people took in a breath of cold air, worthy of being a monstrous genius. He even took out a high-grade immortal tool. It seemed this time that the great demon couldn't escape this calamity. Dragon bone knife? Dongfang Hua's word surprised Bufang. Dragon bone kitchen knife. This fellow also used the dragon bone kitchen knife? Arching his brows, Bufang looked at Dongfang Hua strangely. A moment later, he exhaled. His mind flickered. In his head, the golden dragon's soul instantly let out a deafening roar. Green smoke twirled around. In Bufang's hand, the golden dragon bone kitchen knife bloomed with gold light. What a coincidence! My kitchen knife is also the dragon bone knife. Chapter 1044. Seems like this competition will be interesting. The two of them clasped their hands, lifting their heads to watch the scene in the sky. The audience screamed in surprise. However, after the initial shock, they were so excited. Bufang, on the other hand, was calm. Gong Shuban's face had turned bloodless. Everybody knew what it meant. It meant that the dark clouds had more than one lightning strike. Yeah, with old Shue's cultivation base, he died without a sound. It's so strange, City Lord Mingqi said. The audience clamored unceasingly, thinking that Dongfang Hua would win. A moment later, he threw himself into his cooking. Dongfang Hua's dish had immortal energy twirling around it. That's right, he had used the silver winged dragon bone knife in his hand to cut it. Many people were captivated by the scene and revealed shocked expressions. Everybody knew that the two in the arena were going to have a chef's challenge. The silver pterosaur dragon bone blade spun in his hand, and waves of mysterious fluctuations spread out. In the sky, the dark clouds were so oppressive. However, the knife of such an existence couldn't cut the restaurant in half. Little Sister Meng Qi is right. This small restaurant is definitely strange. City Lord Zhou, who was holding a wok and pinching his thumb and middle finger, took a deep breath. Dongfang Hua was right. Not all dragon bone kitchen knives could be considered high-grade immortal tools. Bufang thought for a while and made up his mind to cook a dish. When someone saw Bufang's dish, they were stunned. Someone screamed. Thunderous booms resounded incessantly. The thunder dragons were tearing and biting each other. The scene was so fierce. Lightning shot everywhere, and the explosions were unceasing. He just gave the restaurant a deep look. The monstrous heaven chief of the fourth layer was unstoppable. The black walk dashed fast, shattering the void. Bufong's dish was about to finish. Impossible. That dog left a strand of fur here. It means that the dog isn't here anymore. It's strange. It's all from this restaurant. He sealed the restaurant. Then, he turned around and left, dashing toward the city lord palace. So far, this match had attracted the greatest amount of pressure from the dark clouds. Zolord's face was wrinkled like a chrysanthemum. He glanced at the restaurant with a hint of bitterness in his eyes. Then, the four city lords looked at each other. Suddenly, the stage was filled with immortal qi. Dongfang Hua's talent was astonishing, and he had obtained the dragon bone saber as a reward. This was his pride, his glory. Not all dragon bone kitchen knives are high-grade, immortal tools. Dongfang was sad. Then, his gaze fell on the kitchen knife in Bufong's hand, narrowing his eyes. Dongfang Hua's cooking was like a work of art. Whether it was his knife skills or his skill in controlling the fire, he could do it with ease. He spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. It's another F***King's stick. Are you planning to hold up the sky until the end? City Lord Feng said. After saying that, the other three nodded. Many people raised their heads to look at the sky, and their pupils shrank. Bufong was a little bewildered. Bufong played with a dazzling golden dragon bone kitchen knife. The corners of his mouth rose as he looked at the referee and said, "The name of the dish." Then he turned around and walked to Bufong's dish. Damn it. Could it be that the dog was behind all this? A heaven chief from the first layer had been arrogant for a long time. Finally, someone was going to teach him a lesson. The lightning tribulations of the two of them actually clashed together in mid-air. A stick could become a dish? He looked at Dongfang Hua, who was standing opposite him. It was a tie. In the end, an invisible wave spread out like ripples in the sky, spreading out layer by layer. People screamed in fear. He threw the black walk in his hand. Everything that's related to that dog has become a little inconceivable. The black-cloaked man lifted his head, his strange eyes gazing at the void. The two thunder dragons of the triple lightning punishment clashed with each other, causing a shocking collision. A moment later, hence, in the following chef's challenge, he had to win. He had to win the kitchen knife in Bufong's hand, which was called the dragon bone knife. Then, in front of the great demon king, he would smash that kitchen knife. The terrifying energy on the black walk disappeared after hitting the restaurant, falling to the ground. A tie? Down below, Dongfang Hua's dish was about to finish. The first thunder dragon tore each other. Lightning sparks shot out. Eventually, with a booming sound, they perished together. The dish that defeated 49 opponents? The great demon chose this dish. Soon, the result would be revealed. The audience screamed in surprise. However, many people were more excited. The silver-winged dragon was an 8-star beast emperor from the 4th layer of the Heaven Chief realm. It was a stick stuck in a pile of ice chips. Then let's call it Crayfish brand Abyssal Spicy Strips. What will be the final result? No doubt, it would be another brutal slaughter from Dongfang Hua. Everybody's eyes stiffened. City Lord Feng could be considered the peak existence in the Heaven Chief realm. His power was just below the Realm Lord. In the arena, the blood-red flame unceasingly soared into the sky, creating a dazzling scene. The second lightning dragon rushed out of the black clouds and directly attacked, also ending in mutual destruction. Dongfang Hua's face became cold. OF***CK. Finally, he could evaluate the great demon's dish. No doubt, those ingredients were all extraordinary, immortal ingredients. The black clouds above their heads disappeared almost at the same time. Gong Shuban was so nervous that his palms were sweating. His eyes were filled with worry. In the next moment, they all performed hand seals, and waves of energy fell down. One array after another fell around the restaurant. Everybody took in a breath of cold air. We must report this restaurant to the Realm Lord. It's not a good thing for such a restaurant to appear in the Heaven Chief realm. In the sky, the Thunder Dragon bared its fangs and brandished its claws. It seemed the great demon was in trouble. Rumble, rumble. Her peerlessly beautiful face was filled with doubt. Her cooking was carried out in an orderly manner. Third-grade immortal dish. Myriad birds bowing to the phoenix. Dong Fonghua clasped his hands, looking extremely confident. What the heck was that restaurant? A weirdo among dishes. Rumble. Outside the arena, this silver pterosaur dragonbone knife is a reward from City Lord Mingqi. Don't compare your trash to my kitchen knife. Arrogant. He doesn't put Dong Fonghua in his eyes. Facing Dong Fonghua, he doesn't even use his trump card. It's about to be cooked. The referee's figure flashed, appearing in front of Dong Fonghua's dish. The onlookers chattered and murmured. This time, Bufong was still cooking spicy strips. However, compared to the previous spicy strips, there were naturally some changes. Then, a terrifying wave of energy shot out from the restaurant. He took out the ingredients one by one and placed them on the stove. Both of them had cooked dishes that could trigger 3 lightning punishments. The audience couldn't help but exclaim in awe. Dong Fonghua. They didn't expect that Owner Bu would choose Dong Fonghua as his opponent. He was happy to see Bufong fail in the chef's challenge. Dong Fonghua was a contestant that even he was afraid of. Just like City Lord Fong, he was also battered and exhausted. All kinds of birds were on it. Just by looking at it, a brutal aura came, making people take in a breath of cold air. The first layer of the Heaven Chief realm. Then, Dong Fonghua's face revealed a bright smile. How could it be? It was a dish that people were familiar with. It was a stick stuck on a pile of ice, which looked like a pillar reaching the sky. The great demon? He had beheaded all of them. The judges didn't even have a chance to taste it. It was the first time the audience had seen such a scene, so they couldn't help but be shocked. Bufong took out the ingredients from the system dimensional bag. However, he couldn't feel any high-grade immortal tools energy fluctuation from them. Both of them could cook dishes that could trigger 3 lightning punishments. There were no explosions or loud noises as he had imagined. Using this kind of kitchen knife to defeat him was simply funny. Bufong's dish shone with dazzling light. Perhaps its quality wasn't bad, but from the looks of it, the dragon bone kitchen knife that the great demon had mentioned wasn't even an immortal tool. Zolord's eyes gazed at that restaurant. Dazzling light shot out from Bufong's dish. What was the result? Zolord's, who had taken the blame, discolored. It could be 2 or even 3. Tong Woody was scared out of his wits. What happened? A moment later, he shouted. After all, he carefully picked up the dish. He didn't see any immortal energy around it. At this moment, the atmosphere became so heavy. His dish wasn't a side dish. It was a big dish. From a distance, it looked like a painting, which was really exquisite. The audience clamored again. If that dog hadn't bitten the great path, Old Shui wouldn't have fallen in the space of the heaven tree. And the chef's challenge, under the gazes of tens of thousands of people, his hand shook. However, that year, the silver-winged dragon didn't know what was good for it and wanted to attack the immortal city. In the end, City Lord Mengqi killed it, and its dragon bones were made into 3 dragon bone kitchen knives as a reward to the talented heaven chief of the 4th layer. Some people even stood up, roaring at the sky to cheer for Dongfang's lightning punishment. Their laughter was full of ridicule, which was aimed at Bufong. City Lord Feng said, his eyes filled with deep hatred. Dongfang Hua wanted to crush the great demon to death. City Lord Meng Qi said with a frown. Lightning flashed. All of the immortal chefs looked pensive. The kitchen knife in the great demon's hand shone with a dazzling gold light, which was so dazzling that it hurt people's eyes. This restaurant is really strange. It seems it has some profound principles. We can't shake it. That energy wave expanded. Dongfang's words seemed to have resonated with the audience as they burst into laughter. Now, all that was left was the final result. Rumble. Tong Woody was scared out of his wits. He didn't expect that the restaurant could resist City Lord Feng's attack. His power was really strong, and he could destroy everything. Bufong's words bewildered Dongfang Hua, who was standing behind the silver stove. He had used all of his skills, but he could only tie with the great demon. The black pot hit the restaurant. The referee was a little excited. Xiao Buke's mouth curved into a cold smile. Dong Fenghua's dish was like a painting. His big plate was piled with many ingredients. The combination of the ingredients created a delicacy with immortal energy. There were phoenixes, eagles, birds, sparrows, and falcons. When the last stroke was done, thick immortal energy began to hover above Dong Fenghua's dish. A terrifying explosion swept the entire place. Each detail was frightening. "Name of the dish?" asked the referee. Bu Feng and Dong Fenghua had finished cooking. That little restaurant, was it really that awesome? He wouldn't allow Bu Feng to use the trash dragon bone kitchen knife to insult his kitchen knife. Dong Fenghua took in a breath of cold air. Black clouds quickly swept over, covering the sky. Dragon bone kitchen knife? It was time for the main event. The standard to judge the dish was the power of the lightning punishment. Of course, compared to the sneers and sneers of the others, it seemed to tear the air. Boom! Since the great demon had joined the competition, he had crushed all the others. This referee was just an empty title. The referee brought the dish to the judge's table. City Lord Feng clutched his chest, his face cold. Of course, even if he could make it, could it compare to Dong Fenghua's dish? All the judges in Heaven Chief's room were looking at the scene in the sky. A moment later, something happened that made them drop their jaws. The third Thunder Dragon stormed down. Its terrifying pressure swept the entire place. Clenching his fists, he faced the sky and roared. Rumble. They found that the dish looked so familiar. There was a thud. The lightning bolt tore the sky. This time, he had added a lot of crayfish meat into the spicy strip. That was why it tasted so good. Every city lord's eyes were filled with surprise. Now, it was time to evaluate the dish. The blood flame moved like an arm. Shortly after, the aroma filled the entire square. Chapter 1045. Yaya, who was wearing a brocade robe, was surprised to see Lord Go and the others walk out of the crack in the void. Oh, so this is the 5th floor of Heaven Chief Realm. It's quite artistic. The Black Dragon King rubbed his bald head, his eyes shining as he looked around. The wooden house was situated on the highest floor of the Heaven Chief Realm, which was higher than the 5th floor. Dense, immortal energy revolved around the wooden house, making it look like a fairyland. Daughter, what do you think? The Black Dragon King grinned, looking at the slender and elegant young girl beside him. That young girl was slim and elegant, with a sexy figure. Her green hair cascaded down her shoulders, and her exquisite face was like a work of art, with a touch of childishness and arrogance. If you don't talk, no one will think that you're mute. Glancing at the Black Dragon King, Hua said calmly. A moment later, her beautiful eyes fell on Lord Go, who was walking like a cat. Hua had finished her transformation. She was now a 3-colored, 7-colored sky devouring python. Her appearance had also changed from a little girl to a young girl. The beautiful young girl was full of charm. Her every frown and smile had a beauty that could intoxicate people. Now, Hua could even speak fluently. Of course, the most important thing was Hua's strength. After the transformation, her cultivation base had increased greatly. Today, Hua's cultivation base was much stronger than before. However, it was only around the level of a 3-star true Immortal Realm expert. However, at least her cultivation base could suppress the Black Dragon King. Boom! Just as the Black Dragon King and Hua were quarreling, there was a sudden clamor in the wooden house. A moment later, a figure appeared in front of them. It was a familiar figure. His body was naked, and his golden hair fluttered. His melancholic eyes were filled with anticipation. It was Realm Lord Dit, who had returned to the 5th floor. Mangy Dog, what are you doing in my 5th floor? This Realm Lord doesn't have a mood to play with you. This Realm Lord is someone who does great things. Realm Lord Dit glanced at Lord Go and said, No, I have nothing better to do, so I came out for a walk, Lord Go said faintly, his voice full of magnetism. World Overlord Dit's brows twitched. Only a ghost would believe the words of this dog. Given how lazy this lazy dog was, if it had nothing to do, it would probably just lie on the ground and sleep. How could it be possible for it to roam around? There was definitely something fishy about this. then you can continue strolling. This realm lord still has important things to do. Realm Lord Dit said. After speaking, he turned around and returned to the wooden hut. Go ahead. I'll look for your assistant. Lord Go said faintly. Ia, who was at the side, was extremely terrified. Lord Dot was looking for her. Lass, those fellows from the immortal city should have come to look for you, right? Lord Go lay on the ground and lazily licked his claws as he said. Yaya's eyes widened. Those fellows from the immortal city? Was he talking about the immortal city's city lords? Yes. Yes, those city lords have already gone to the first layer of the Heaven Chief world. They should be looking for you, Lord Go, Yaya said. Oh, then they might have a surprise, Lord Go said. Since they have gone to the first layer, lass, tell the Lord Go where those fellows usually cultivate. The Lord Go has important things to do. Yaya was stunned. In the next moment, her eyes widened. Could it be that the Lord Go was thinking of, it's just a friendly greeting? Lass, don't think too much. Is the Lord Go the kind of dog? Lord Go said faintly. They have all gone to the first layer to greet the Lord Go. Naturally, the Lord Go will go to their cultivation places to get some good stuff. This is called reciprocity. As a city lord, the cultivation place and the city lord's mansion were definitely separate. The cultivation place was rather secretive. Only people like Yaya, who was in charge of many things in the Heaven Chief world, would know about it. This was also the reason why the Lord Go came to the fifth layer first. Otherwise, the Lord Go would have killed his way to the cultivation places of those city lords. Since the Lord Go had asked, how could Yaya not give it to him? Although Yaya wanted to refuse, the Lord Go's power was too strong. This made Yaya say it in the end. Looking at the two people and the dog who stepped into the crack in the void, Yaya wanted to cry, but had no tears. Dear city lords, Yaya has let you down. Crayfish brand abyssal spicy strips? What kind of ridiculous names are these? The judge was a little speechless, glancing at Buffon. That dish stuck in a pile of ice had such a tongue-twisting name. Since the lightning punishment had ended in a tie, the judges had to come out and taste the dishes. They would evaluate the strength of the two dishes and come to a conclusion. Both of their dishes were brought to the judges' table. The massive light screen also gave the two dishes a close-up. Needless to say, these two dishes had completely different styles. Dongfang Hua's dish, myriad of birds bowing to the phoenix, had used ingredients and knife skills to perfectly depict all kinds of birds under the heavens. All of them had been condensed into this dish. Each type of bird was carefully crafted using different ingredients. This dish looked like a perfect painting. It was so beautiful that it could intoxicate people. Immortal energy spiraled, twirling unceasingly. Just by looking at it, people could hear the phoenixes cry and all kinds of unique birds. Dongfang was really confident in this dish. He had planned to use this dish to challenge the monster of the fifth layer. However, he hadn't thought that he would meet the great demon on this layer and have a chef's challenge. The chef's challenge was risky, and he couldn't afford to lose. That was why he had to bring this dish out. Although he had replaced many of the ingredients in this dish with low-grade ingredients, the meaning and level of this dish would definitely surpass that of the great Demon King's dish. He was so confident. He really liked his dish. Myriad of birds bowing to the phoenix wouldn't lose to the great demon's stick, right? The audience had already begun to discuss the problem of the dish. Of course, they were more enthusiastic about Dongfang Hua's dish. No matter what, it was his home ground, and Dongfang Hua's support was much higher than Bufang's. No, it was a complete suppression. Almost no audience thought that Bufang would win. They all supported Dongfang Hua. No matter from the perspective of strength or the dish, the audience thought that Dongfang Hua would be the final winner. The five judges exchanged looks. Sitting in the middle was Little Dit, who was flapping his wings. The five judges tasted Dongfang Hua's dish first. This dish had already aroused the five judges' interest. Each judge held a pair of chopsticks, reaching out with great interest to pick up the dish and put it into their mouths. As soon as the dish entered their mouths, the judges' eyes bloomed with light. Interesting, this myriad of birds paying homage to the phoenix is actually a vegetable dish but it has the texture of a meat dish. Every single bird is cooked with different immortal ingredients. There's no meat, but the taste surpasses that of meat. A judge exclaimed in admiration. As the grade of the bird species increases, the taste of the dish will also change. The most delicious dish is the phoenix, but the other bird species also have their own merits. It's a very creative vegetable dish. Another judge stroked his beard and let out a sigh of admiration. Dongfang He was arrogant. Of course, he knew his dish like the back of his hand. The reason why he had chosen a vegetable dish was because his opponent was only Bufang. If his opponent was the real monstrous genius of the fifth layer, he wouldn't have chosen a vegetable dish to cook. Instead, he would have chosen the meat of 10,000 birds to process. However, if it was all meat, it would be a bigger challenge for the chef. It was important to have the different tastes of different meats. However, to deal with the great demon, Dongfang didn't think he needed to use the strongest version of myriad of birds bowing to the phoenix. Although the judges praised, they didn't rush to make a conclusion. Their eyes shifted to Bufang's dish. The spicy strip was cut into pieces, placed on a pile of ice. Its appearance was much worse than the myriad of birds bowing to the phoenix. However, it was lucky that the aroma of the spicy strip didn't lose to the myriad of birds bowing to the phoenix, which made the judges want to taste it. Spicy strip? It's the first time I've heard of this dish, the judge said with a smile. It was also the first time they had tasted Bufang's dish. Before this, Bufang's dishes had always been overwhelming. His dishes didn't need to be compared. He picked up a piece of spicy strip with his chopsticks. Dots of light bloomed on the spicy strip, which looked so beautiful, like an exquisite work of art. However, that was all. It couldn't surprise the judges more. Putting the spicy strip into his mouth, he slowly chewed and chewed. In just a blink of an eye, a wave of flavor filled his mouth. As he chewed, the oil seemed to be squeezed out of the spicy strip, shooting out in his mouth. In that instant, the 5 judges widened their eyes. In their pupils, there seemed to be a flame burning. Their eyes seemed to turn into an oven. Boom! Boom! It was like an erupting volcano. The judges' faces turned red in just a blink of an eye. Their nostrils fumed white smoke. This taste, a judge blushed, exclaiming in admiration. His body felt like it was on fire, and he had an urge to rip off his clothes. A small piece of spicy strip seemed to contain all kinds of flavors. That taste swirled in his mouth 1,000 times. Eventually, it became as spicy as fire. That spicy taste was pure and unpretentious. That aroma was low-key and not vulgar. As they chewed, the judges' hearts were filled with a feeling of exploring secrets. When they bit it, different meaty flavors burst out. That meat was so tender that it melted in their mouths. The meaty aroma burst out to the extreme. "Is this the taste of shrimp?" asked a judge while chewing. In the 4th layer of the Heaven Chief realm, of course, there was seafood. The judges must have tasted shrimp before. He wrapped the prawn meat in a simple spicy strip. However, the shrimp's taste didn't leak out. After biting it, the spicy taste of the spicy strip, the aroma of the sauce, and the shrimp meat exploded instantly. It was as if a bomb containing 3 different flavors had exploded in his mouth. It made people sink into it, unable to pull themselves out. "Delicious!" the judges exclaimed with complicated faces. Little Dit raised his thumb, gesturing with his chopsticks. His chopsticks didn't stop picking up the spicy strip. When the spicy strip entered his stomach, Little Dit was so intoxicated. The judge's reaction made the audience burst into an uproar. At this moment, the audience was a little hesitant and skeptical because they couldn't determine who would win. Dongfang's eyes shrank. He couldn't believe it. He felt that he didn't have 100% chance of winning. He even had a feeling of uneasiness in his heart. This uneasiness made Dongfang a little irritated. How could I lose? How could a stick-like dish defeat me? Dongfang took a deep breath, his cold eyes looking at Bufang. Then he calmed down. "I have to believe in my myriad of birds bowing to the phoenix, the creative myriad of birds bowing to the phoenix, and the delicious abyssal spicy strip." Which one would the 5 judges choose? Under everyone's gazes, the judges made their choices one by one. I choose myriad of birds bowing to the phoenix. Although it's not as good as the spicy strip, its creativity and cooking skills are much better. A judge made his choice. I choose the abyssal spicy strip, not only because of the taste, but also because of the inexplicable throbbing in my heart. I choose the spicy strip, not because of anything else but my faith. Myriad of birds bowing to the phoenix can only be described as amazing. The four judges made their choices. The result was a tie of 2-2, which meant that they couldn't decide the final winner. However, there was still one more judge. At this moment, this judge had become the focus of the audience. Little Dit's mouth was stuffed with spicy strips. He seemed to notice that people were looking at him. Little Dit put down his chopsticks, rubbing his oily mouth. The wings on his back flapped, and he flew up, landing on the table. He placed his hands on his waist, and his lower body bloomed with holy light. Myriad of birds bowing to the phoenix. Flashy but impractical. If the ingredients were changed, it would be better. But cooking it with vegetables is the biggest failure. No doubt, for faith, only the spicy strip. 3-2. The winner was the Great Demon. As soon as the result was announced, the audience was shocked. Chapter 1046. 3-2 lost. Young Master Dongfang lost. How could it be? How could the myriad of birds bowing to the phoenix lose to a stick? The judge announced the final winner. Instantly, the entire square seemed as though it was about to explode. Everyone felt a wave of disbelief. Dongfang Hua, the monstrous genius from the fourth layer, lost to a heaven chi from the first layer. How could it be? The entire audience was shocked, thoroughly frightened. Who could have thought of such an ending? Even Dongfang Hua himself was dumbfounded. As a monstrous genius from the fourth layer, the heaven chief, King lost. He was the heaven chief who wanted to enter the top 50. His myriad of birds bowing to the phoenix, which he had meticulously prepared, lost to a stick. The impact it had on him wasn't less than the mental attack of a grade 4 true immortal realm expert. He was dumbstruck. Dongfang Hua came to his senses when the entire place was in an uproar. Impossible. I can't lose. Even if I lose, I can't lose to a heaven chief from the first layer. Dongfang Hua shouted irritably, his eyes turning red in just a blink of an eye. The audience was also clamoring, claiming that there was a shady deal. Dongfang Hua couldn't lose. Bufang was calm, clasping his hands, his face emotionless. Actually, Bufang also exhaled in relief. When the thunderous attacks ended, Bufang was a little nervous, thinking that he was going to lose. Although the spicy strip wasn't bad, it wasn't his best dish, and the ingredients he used were just ordinary. If he lost because of that, Bufang would be a little upset. He couldn't help but sound the alarm. But fortunately, he won by a narrow margin. Since he had won, Bufang resumed his cold and aloof appearance. What did the audience's attitude have to do with him? The referee shouted. Terrifying energy waves expanded, sweeping through the entire place. Then, everybody quieted down. At this moment, the audience could only gawk, staring at the arena. They weren't convinced. They felt that it was unfair for young Master Dongfang. They felt that the referee was definitely protecting the great demon. How could an unknown heaven chief from the first level be able to defeat their young Master Dongfang like a dazzling black horse? The results are determined by the judges. Why are you dissatisfied? The judges are all third-grade heaven chief. What qualifications do you have to deny the decision of a third-grade heaven chief? The referee said. His voice was like a morning bell that resounded throughout the arena. That brat is also a third-grade heaven chief. Yeah, what right does that naked brat have to be a judge? We don't accept this. That brat will definitely protect the great demon. However, not long after the referee's voice faded, the audience started to clamor. They pointed at Little Dit's position and continued to clamor. Little Dit was stunned. His mouth bulged, and his hands on his waist stopped moving. Was he being suspected? The other judges were bewildered. They didn't think that the audience would doubt Little Dit's identity. That was a kid with the Realm Lord's token. His identity represented the Realm Lord. Who dared to be presumptuous? A judge was about to stand up and shout. However, before he could move, he was dumbfounded by Little Dit's action. Little Dit didn't seem to mind the audience's denial. His small hand grabbed a pair of chopsticks, sweeping the pile of crushed ice. Instantly, a piece of spicy strip flashed dazzlingly, dashing towards Dongfanghua. Dongfanghua squinted. His eyes seemed to have blood in them. Swish! That piece of spicy strip entered his mouth. As soon as the spicy strip entered his mouth, Dongfanghua's eyes changed. The spicy strip in his mouth released all kinds of flavors. It made his pores open, as though they were about to spurt out white steam. This taste, Dongfanghua suddenly stopped talking. His face slowly changed from white to fiery red. His mouth looked as though it was about to spurt fire. Beads of sweat rolled down his forehead. The audience looked at Dongfanghua's appearance, not saying anything. They wanted to let Dongfanghua evaluate himself. What do you think? Do you still disagree with the judge's evaluation? After eating this spicy strip, you should know why you lost, right? Little Dit placed his hands on his hips. His lower body glowed with dazzling holy light. He glanced at Dongfanghua, speaking casually. A moment later, Little Dit shrugged. His eyes scanned the entire place, looking at the audience. Then, he proudly lifted his head. Moreover, what does this Realm Lord's decision have to do with you? If you have the guts, come and replace this Realm Lord's position. You know nothing about this Realm Lord's power. The entire place was silent. No one would have thought that this naked brat would actually be so domineering. I lost. After a while, Dongfanghua opened his mouth. He clenched his fists, his eyes bloodshot. He knew he lost. Little Dit was right. As soon as he tasted the dish, he knew he lost. Moreover, it was a crushing defeat. Because he had chosen to cook the myriad of birds paying homage to the phoenix, he had lost the essence of this dish. This small gap was like a moat between heaven and earth. Although the level of the dish wasn't bad, its taste and meaning were utterly defeated. Since Dongfanghua had admitted defeat, the audience could only sigh reluctantly. Buzz, a jet of silver light appeared, dashing toward Bufang. Bufang raised his hand and grabbed the silver light. When the light dispersed, the original appearance of the silver light was revealed. It was the silver pterosaur dragon bone knife in Dongfanghua's hand. I lost the chef's challenge. I'll give a silver pterosaur dragon bone knife to you. But remember, next time I will win it back. Dongfanghua's eyes looked like they were about to shoot fire. The dragon bone knife. Bufang played with the silver pterosaur dragon bone knife, his eyes narrowing. Just for a moment, a dreadful dragon roar resounded from the dragon bone blade. In Bufang's mind, he was facing a massive silver pterosaur dragon that could cover the sky. The silver pterosaur dragon spread its silver wings, emitting a terrifying aura. Its scarlet eyes gazed at Bufang in front of it. Then it opened its mouth, roaring. After a while, Bufang's mind recovered from the illusion. Oh, you're a little emotional now? The corners of Bufang's mouth rose. Hey, since the dragon bone knife is mine now, can I do a little test? Bufang lifted his head, looking at Dongfanghua. Dongfanghua looked at Bufang, who was fine. His pupils shrank. The silver pterosaur dragon bone knife spirit didn't affect him at all? Sure, the knife is yours now. I can't do anything about it, Dongfanghua said, gritting his teeth. Good. I've been waiting for you to say that. Bufang nodded. I'm curious whether your dragon bone knife or mine is sharper. That's why I want to test it, Bufang said. Golden light sparkled in his hand. A moment later, the golden dragon bone kitchen knife fell into his hand. Bufang's eyes sparkled. In his spirit sea, a giant silver pterosaur appeared. Its wings fluttered, stirring up stormy waves. But in the next moment, an even louder dragon roar resounded, causing the silver-winged dragon to freeze on the spot. The gold dragon's might expanded. A pressure from its bloodline made the silver pterosaur not dare to move. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Bufang's hand shook. The golden dragon bone kitchen knife spun in his hand, twirling. His other hand moved, and the silver pterosaur dragon bone knife also spun. Dongfanghua gazed at Bufang. The corners of his mouth rose as he sneered. Looking at Bufang's posture, he wanted to use the knife to kill each other, comparing the sharpness of the silver pterosaur dragon bone knife. Wasn't he courting death? The silver pterosaur was an 8-star beast emperor, a bone knife made of the bones of that kind of existence. How could the knife in Bufang's hand, which didn't have any immortal energy, compare to it? There was no doubt that Bufang's kitchen knife would be cut in half. Bufang exhaled. A moment later, he wielded the knife. The golden dragon bone kitchen knife and the silver pterosaur dragon bone knife clashed. Dongfang was sneered, watching. However, at the moment the two knives clashed, the smile on his face froze. The fifth layer of the Heaven Chief realmed several thousand miles outside the immortal city above a majestic mountain peak. The void was torn apart. A moment later, a black dog walked out of it with cat-like steps. Standing next to the black dog was a bald man and an elegant young girl. As soon as the Lord Go appeared, he walked in the void with his cat-like steps. Then, his dog nose twitched as if he had smelled something. "Here," the Lord Go said casually. A moment later, he appeared in the void as if he had teleported. Raising his exquisite dog paw, he gently patted the void. The Black Dragon King and Hua were a little skeptical. They didn't seem to understand the meaning of the Lord Go's action. Those city lords are really cunning. There's so many treasures in that cultivation ground. That year, they seized the chance when the Lord Go was wounded to chase the Lord Go away. Now, the Lord Go is here to collect interest. The Lord Go said. A moment later, the exquisite dog paw patted and the void shattered. A majestic palace suddenly appeared in the void, standing on top of the towering mountain peak. Thick immortal energy twirled around the palace. This is the cultivation ground of the city, Lord of the fifth layer of the immortal city. It's really luxurious. The Lord Go entered first, clicking his tongue in admiration. It was worthy of being a cultivation ground. The immortal energy was so thick that it almost turned into liquid and flowed. The Lord Go walked leisurely like a cat. Hua and the Black Dragon King followed behind him. The doors of the palace were tightly shut, but when the Lord Go approached, they all opened. A few of them were smashed open by the Lord Go's paw. This is the imperial bloodgrass. Lass, eat it. This is the dragon powder flower, purgatory fruit. It even has the 9-trace yellow essence. As the Lord Go walked, he picked up the treasures. When he saw something good, he would stuff it into his mouth. Occasionally, he would throw it to the Black Dragon King and Hua, asking them to eat it. Hua didn't hesitate. As a 7-colored sky devouring python, if she wanted to evolve, she needed to constantly absorb treasures. These immortal ingredients were just right for her. Munch, munch. Hua ate happily, and essence energy seemed to spur out of her mouth. The Black Dragon King was a little embarrassed. However, after eating a spirit fruit, his eyes widened. In the next moment, he started to eat crazily. Don't feel burdened. Many of the things here were collected by the Lord Go in the past. After these fellows drove the heavily injured Lord Go out of the Heaven Chief realm, they took Lord Go's things for themselves. Now, the Lord Go is only here to take back what belongs to him. I can also take some interest. The Lord Go's mouth moved up and down as he chewed on a heart-like fruit. The Black Dragon King and Hua nodded hurriedly. As long as they followed the Lord Go, they would have meat to eat. They ate from the beginning to the end. What is this? Suddenly, the Lord Go seemed to find something. His paw was holding a silver heart, and his face was puzzled. Is this a treasure? Is it edible? The Black Dragon King asked while burping, his eyes sparkling. So strange. This silver heart has a familiar aura. It's like the aura of a Chilean chef. The Lord Go furrowed his brows. However, he was a little uncertain. Why would the city lord of the fifth layer have a Chilean chef's heart? Moreover, this aura was familiar to the Lord Go. It was like the city lord of the first layer. That year, the Lord Go had dealt with him, so he was somewhat familiar with him. The Chilean chef heart of the first layer's city lord. The Lord Go suddenly bared his teeth. Seems like I found something extraordinary. The fifth floor of Heaven Chief realm yeah, anxiously paced back and forth. All of a sudden, the void trembled. City Lord Feng and the others appeared. Seeing these city lords, Yaya's face changed. City lords, all of you have finally returned. Yaya's face revealed a mournful expression as she spoke. That dog? That dog! What happened to that dog? Did he come here? City Lord Feng furrowed his brows, his eyes sharp. That dog came here. He asked me for the cultivation area's coordinates. Yaya said guiltily. He asked for the cultivation area's coordinates? The four city lords exchanged looks, looking skeptical. A moment later, the expressions on everyone's faces changed dramatically. That dog? Damn it! City Lord Feng's eyes shrank. His anger and murderous intent soared to the sky. And fear. Rumble. City Lord Feng's figure flashed. Rumbling sounds echoed as he smashed the void, disappearing from his spot. The other city lords sucked in a breath of cold air. They left the fifth layer, rushing to their respective cultivation areas. If the training ground was dug up by that dog, that would be terrible. Chapter 1047. Under Dongfang Hoa's sneering eyes, Bufang's gold dragon bone kitchen knife and the silver pterosaur dragon bone kitchen knife collided. Instantly, a clanging sound arose, echoing through the entire place. Almost everybody couldn't help but gawk. Was the great demon from the first layer crazy? How could he use his kitchen knife to collide with Dongfang Hoa's silver pterosaur dragon bone kitchen knife? Wasn't he just looking for trouble? As people from the fourth layer, how could they not know the sharpness of the silver pterosaur dragon bone kitchen knife? It was a high-grade immortal tool made from the bones of an 8-star beast emperor. Could it be that the great demon from the first layer of the Heaven Chief realm had a top-grade immortal tool in his hand? There was a cracking sound. A clear sound reverberated through the entire place. A moment later, the entire square became quiet. Everybody stared at the arena, not daring to breathe loudly. They didn't know what to say. Dongfang Hoa was bewildered, looking forward. A moment later, his face reddened. My silver pterosaur dragon bone kitchen knife. Dongfang Hoa felt his heart bleeding. Crack. Crack. The result of the collision was out. The silver pterosaur dragon bone kitchen knife had a crack. On the contrary, Bufang's gold dragon bone kitchen knife wasn't damaged at all. What the F***? How could it be? That was a high-grade immortal tool. How could a high-grade immortal tool be cracked by a kitchen knife that didn't even emit any immortal energy? It's cracked. Bufang looked at the cracked silver pterosaur dragon bone kitchen knife and couldn't help but smirk. If he hadn't, the silver pterosaur dragon bone kitchen knife would have been cut in half. Indeed, this small test didn't reveal the god of cooking set's true level. However, at least he could confirm that the god of cooking set wasn't weaker than the top-grade immortal tool from the Heaven Chief realm. Since the high-grade immortal tool was cracked when it collided with a high-grade immortal tool, it meant that the level of the god of cooking set was higher than that of a high-grade immortal tool. Then, it had to be a top-grade immortal tool. Of course, this made Bufang more and more interested in the fourth piece of the god of cooking set. He was very curious about what the fourth god of cooking set would be. In order to get the fourth piece of the god of cooking set, Bufang was even more determined to enter the top 10 of the Heaven Chief competition. This was the only way he could obtain the last fragment of the god of cooking set. Bufang put away the 2 dragon bone kitchen knives. Then, with his hands clasped behind his back, Bufang turned around and walked down the stage. Down below, Gongshu Ban's eyes reddened, looking at Bufang with excitement. Honor Bu, you're too awesome. Gongshu Ban almost jumped up from his spot. He was so excited that he wanted to hug Bufang. However, Bufang rejected him. The little girl, Cici, was also very happy and bounced on the spot. Calm down. It's just a daily routine. Bufang looked at the excited Gongshu Ban, the corners of his mouth twitching as he patted the latter's shoulder. The first challenge had ended. Next, Bufang could continue the challenge. Honor Bu, rest for a while. We can continue the challenge. The next challenge will be between 79th to 60th. Who does Honor Bu want to challenge? Asked Gongshu Ban. In Gong Shuban's opinion, at this moment, Bu Fong had to fight steadily and surely. However, Gong Shuban could guess that Bu Fong would definitely not follow his plan. Don't think too much. Go straight to 60th. Bu Fong rubbed Cici's head, saying casually, "Indeed, 60th place?" Gong Shuban was already immune to Bu Fong's choices. This fellow didn't follow common sense at all. His mind sank into the Jade Talisman. Gong Shuban looked at the name on the Jade Talisman and said, 60th place. It's still a Heaven Chief from the 4th layer of the Heaven Chief competition. His cooking skills are a little weaker than Dongfang was. However, he has a high chance to enter the top 50. He's considered a veteran. It's his 3rd time participating in the Heaven Chief competition. All right, it's him, Bu Fong said casually. Gong Shuban heard Bu Fong's confirmation. His mind shivered as he stammered on that name. Then, the entire audience burst into an uproar. After Bu Fong made his choice, the news was broadcasted on the massive light curtain. Next challenge, Bu Fong challenges Sun Quanwu. As soon as this news was spread out, the audience was inexplicably frightened. Sun Quanwu was ranked 60th. The great demon was too arrogant. He directly challenged the strongest one. However, this time, people favor Bu Fong because Sun Quanwu was a little weaker than Dongfang Hua. Although he was a veteran, his innate talent was still there. Dongfang Hua had already walked down the stage in a daze. Without the silver pterosaur dragonbone kitchen knife, his cooking skills would decrease a lot. However, as the leader of the 4th layer, of course, he still had some immortal tools and kitchen knives in his hands. After resting for a while, a few more matches had ended in the arena. It was now Bu Fong's turn. Bu Fong slowly stepped on the stage. His vermilion robe fluttered, but he still looked so calm, as if he was floating in the air like an immortal. His calmness made the expressions of the audience extremely complicated. The great demon was so terrifying. The referee appeared by Bu Fong. He looked at Bu Fong meaningfully. "You're going to cook the crayfish abyssal spicy strip this time?" Bu Fong looked at the referee skeptically. "Guess, let me give you a piece of advice. If you keep showing the same dish, the judges will give you a lower score." The referee said. "So, if you want to go further, you'd better show more new dishes. New dishes? Of course I will," Bu Fong said casually. Time flew. There was still only Bu Fong on the stage. The surrounding audience burst into an uproar. This scene was so familiar. The corner of the referee's mouth twitched. He looked at Bu Fong as if he was looking at a monster. Did Sun Quanwu choose to give up? After waiting for a long time, Sun Quanwu didn't get on the stage. Without a doubt, he chose to give up. Another contestant gave up. Moreover, it was the top character of the 4th layer's Heaven Chief. The audience didn't know what to say. The great demon was so terrifying. However, many people understood that Sun Quanwu's giving up was the best choice. Since Sun Quanwu had given up, he didn't need to face Bu Fong in the chef's challenge. He wouldn't be like Dongfang Hua, who lost his kitchen knife, which would affect his performance. The challenged and the challenger were different. If the challenge failed, he was still qualified to continue challenging. However, if the challenger failed, his ranking would be fixed, and he would lose the right to challenge. Thus, Sun Quanwu chose to give up, preserving his strength, and challenging a more confident contestant. It was the best choice. Seems like I won't have a chance to show my new dish. Bu Fong looked at the referee, his face emotionless. The referee was speechless. Another forfeit. Facing the great demon, 2 contestants had chosen to give up. This Heaven Chief from the 1st layer wanted to sweep all the way. Since Sun Quanwu had given up, Bu Fong had the chance to continue challenging. In the next match, he would challenge the 50th ranked contestant. What everyone didn't expect was that Bu Fong's opponent gave up again. The audience was in an uproar again, almost numb. Had the great demon become a taboo existence? His opponents didn't choose to accept the challenge. Instead, they all gave up. The 50th ranked contestant was the Heaven Chief from the 5th layer. After weighing the pros and cons, the opponents felt that Bu Fong's cooking skills were a threat. If they couldn't win, they would lose their kitchen knife. They couldn't afford to pay such a price. A good kitchen knife could play a big role in people's culinary skills. Thus, Bu Fong became the 50th ranked contestant. Even the referee didn't know what to say. Gong Shu Ban roared excitedly, constantly waving his fists. He had entered the top 50. Although the process was a little funny, at least he had entered the top 50 of the Heaven Chief competition. This glory made Gong Shu Ban feel a little unreal. After so many years, finally, someone from the first layer of the Heaven Chief competition could enter the top 50. Even if it was just entering the top 50, it was still a kind of unreal glory. Just a daily operation. Continue the challenge. We can't stop, Bu Fong said casually. Do you still want a challenge? No need. Our current ranking is enough for us to enter the 5th layer for the finals. We just need to maintain our current ranking, Gong Shu Ban said. He refused to let Bu Fong continue the challenge. Continue the challenge. Don't be afraid. You have to have an indomitable heart, Bu Fong said. Then, ignoring Gong Shu Ban's objection, Bu Fong called out the name of the 40th contestant. In that instant, the entire audience was in an uproar. Bu Fong actually chose to continue the challenge. He had entered the top 50, but he still wanted to continue the challenge. Was there a hole in his brain? If he lost, Bu Fong would lose the qualification to continue the challenge, and his ranking would be fixed. The challenger could only win and not lose, unlike the challenged, who could lose once. However, it was beyond everyone's expectation. The 40th contestant also chose to give up, gave up again. The referee didn't want to be the host of Bu Fong's match. It was meaningless. How come the young people nowadays don't have any drive? Because they were afraid of losing the chef's challenge. They chose to give up. They had completely lost the heart to continue the challenge. The judges on the stage shook their heads disappointedly. This cooking competition had really disappointed them. Without the heart to advance, the achievements of the Heaven Chief were limited. It was because it was really hard for them to condense the heart of cooking path. Bu Fong was a little speechless and regretful about his opponent's decision to give up. He sighed, then walked down the stage. I don't want to challenge anymore. It's boring. Let's just wait for the finals of the 5th layer. Bu Fong shook his head. His opponent had given up. It was not interesting at all. He didn't want this kind of competition. It would be better to directly join the finals of the 5th layer. Entering the top 50 would be qualified to enter the 5th layer, where they would participate in the finals of this year's Heaven Chief competition. At that time, each contestant would try their best, and the competition would be the fiercest. Moreover, at this moment, Bu Fong also had a headache, because he had no clue how to condense the heart of cooking path. If he wanted to get the fragments of the God of Cooking set, he had to condense the heart of cooking path and complete the system's mission. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The void rumbled. In the next moment, there seemed to be a figure streaking across the sky like a meteor, falling with a loud rumble. The mountain peak was swaying. City Lord Fong looked at the space crack, which had appeared on the mountain peak. His heart chilled. Damn dog. A kitchen knife appeared in City Lord Feng's hand. He gripped it tightly, his eyes filled with cold, murderous intent. I hope that secret hasn't been discovered yet. Otherwise, even if I have to go to the ends of the earth, I will kill that dog. City Lord Feng took a deep breath, trying to suppress the shiver in his heart. A moment later, he stepped into the palace. Damn it! Rumble, rumble. However, looking at the messy palace, City Lord Feng couldn't restrain his anger, roaring. He wasn't angry because the immortal materials were all taken. He was angry because the heart was gone. It was his secret, a secret that he couldn't let anyone find out. The 4th layer of the Heaven Chief world, there was a gorgeous courtyard within a spatial crack. Immortal materials were flying everywhere in the courtyard. A moment later, a black dog walked out with cat-like steps. While walking, the black dog burped. Behind the black dog were Hua and the Black Dragon King, who were also burping. The Black Dragon King was carrying a bulging sack, which had immortal energy twirling around it. Apparently, he had collected many good things. Burp. Follow the Lord, go to the 3rd layer. Chapter 1048. In the fifth layer, the scenery was much more beautiful than the other layers. Bufang used his mental energy to control it. Without a bit of hesitation, he chose the 10th place, Huang Haoyan's name. After the referee had introduced the rules, the entire arena burst into an uproar. There's only one winner. The winner gets the right to continue the challenge, and the loser's ranking will be fixed, ending the competition. It was too exciting. Bufang's achievement had broken the record of the first layer. Huang Haoyan clasped his hands, coldly and arrogantly entering the arena. As soon as he appeared, the entire audience clamored. The rules for these 50 contestants were a little different from before. He had almost lost the last match, which had alerted Bufang. At this level, there were no weak contestants. If he was careless, he could lose. Immortal tongue. It wasn't ordinary. With an immortal tongue, the chef's control over the taste of his dishes would reach an extreme level. His subtle control over the taste would surpass Bufang's previous opponents. As soon as he stepped into this layer, he felt a torrential flow of spirit energy brushing his face. In the sky, the leaves of the heaven tree were swaying, as if they were rustling in the wind. At first glance, it was a little shocking. As soon as his voice faded, boom, boom, boom. With just a glance, Bufang felt his heart shrink. It could be said that Bufang was the biggest variable in this year's Heaven Chief competition. He could force a contestant to give up. It was enough to show how powerful Bufang was. It was still a challenge, but it was different from the previous ones. It was as if he could see through everything, which made Bufang feel incredulous. Bufang's mind sank into the jade talisman as he spoke. When he saw the magnificent immortal city, this feeling became more intense. Bufang stood in the southeast. Dongfang Hua and Zhou Quangliu stood next to him. Facing him was the one being challenged. Huang Haoyan, said the referee. This time, there was no limit on the number of contestants. More importantly, Huang Haoyan has an immortal tongue. It's a talent that all chefs dream of. The sense of urgency and pressure made Bufang's body slightly tremble. In the distance, Gongshu Ban was bewildered, looking at Bufang in disbelief. The arena was empty. In the finals, Bufang did not dare to be careless. It was excitement. Focus on the 10th place. During the finals, we'll directly challenge the 10th place. All kinds of majestic energy poured out in torrents. However, when the 10 immortal chefs, who seemed to have their own radiance, walked out, the entire audience burst into a thunderous uproar. This was the 10th place contestant of the Heaven Chief competition, a demon-like genius of the 5th level. He was very popular. After the referee introduced the names and achievements of the 10 Heaven Chief, he began to introduce the key rules of the Heaven Chief competition. The 4 of them stood at the 4 corners of the arena. In other words, every contestant in the top 50 could choose an opponent to challenge. Of course, the top 10 could also challenge each other, but it wasn't time yet. Once his ranking was fixed, he quickly rolled away. As tens of thousands of people were watching, the Heaven Chief entered the arena one after another. Dongfang Hua entered the arena one more time. His eyes were blood red, and his body was twirled with a blood-red flame. Zhou Quangliu also entered the arena with a cool posture. Bufang and the other 3 also looked at the referee. Of course, Huang Haoyan was the most pitiful one, who asked him to be ranked 10th. He was treated like a soft persimmon. Thus, Bufang had to maintain his condition to defeat his opponents in the next round. No doubt, Bufang's next match would be his most terrifying opponent. Far from him, Bufang was thinking about his dish. The immortal city was situated by the waterfall. Majestic water vapor continually poured in, making beautiful rainbows hover above the immortal city. The referee was still the same, and the judges were still the same, along with a beam of light. However, he had to admit that the 5th level had a lot of resources and geniuses. When Bufang was fighting against Dongfang Hua, he had to struggle a lot. If he were to fight against the top 10, he would be killed. There were both men and women. There were more men and fewer women. Now, you have the time to brew a pot of tea, to study, and choose your opponents. And the audience was also very satisfied watching it. The first match of the top 10 challenge. Theme: chicken. How could it be? This feeling is at the heart of cooking path. Gong Shu Ban was bewildered. Then he screamed in surprise. It was so beautiful that people could get drunk on it. Ah, the names of the top 10 monstrous heaven chief in the Jade Talisman list have come out. Huang Haoyan was ranked 10th. 3 challengers had come to challenge him. Many people gazed at the light curtain, feeling disbelieving. Under the gazes of tens of thousands of people, the referee announced loudly. They opened their eyes wide, gazing at the arena. They were waiting for the result of the challenge. Everyone was hesitating and hesitating. Jade talismans soared into the sky. All of them wore chef robes, which made them look cold and stern. After carefully deciding, they chose their opponents. At the same time, the names in the Jade talismans of the contestants lit up. The final match was crazy indeed. 3 challengers had come to challenge the 10th contestant, and the final match of the Heaven Chief competition would be held in this place. They came to the Immortal City and found a place to rest. Then, they returned to their rooms. Bu Fong, Gong Shu Ban, and the others came to the 5th floor of Heaven Chief Realm. They had to deal with these rookies first. Since they could reach this level, of course, they had to have a high level. The lightning punishment they had triggered was really powerful. Among them, Bu Fong saw many triple lightning punishments. Gong Shu Ban was also in Bu Fong's room. He was really excited. Bu Fong could reach this level, which had completely changed his view of the world. 10th place, the monstrous Heaven Chief from the 5th floor of Heaven Chief Realm. His name is Huang Haoyan. He has a high-grade immortal knife, and his cooking skills are exquisite. He has an immortal flame, ranked 51st on the immortal flame ranking. Thus, the risk of the final match was much higher than before, and the pace was much faster than before. The referee landed in the middle of the arena and looked at the 4 of them solemnly. He saw the leader of the 10 contestants. He had made the right bet. Bu Fong had chosen to challenge the 10th contestant. This time, his target wasn't Huang Haoyan, but Bu Fong. He wanted to take revenge and wash away the haze in his heart. All of a sudden, his eyes shrank as he took in a breath of cold air. Bu Fong's way of entering the arena was the most ordinary. He leisurely walked from the bottom of the arena to the stage, because they didn't have any burden anymore. The top 10 contestants all came from the 5th floor. The 5th floor's Heaven Tree Square was the most magnificent and dazzling one. As soon as he said that, the challenge began. Gong Shu Ban was so happy. He kept telling Bu Fong to go all out and fight. No matter if it was Huang Haoyan, the Great Demon, or Dongfang Hua, the competition was fierce, which filled people with anticipation. Said the referee. Even the top 10 immortal chefs were a little dazed. Looking at the light screen, they furrowed their brows. Buzz, however, it was different from Cece. Huang Haoyan's immortal tongue had fully developed, and it was much more sensitive than Cece's. On this floor, people could see the mysterious and complicated patterns on the leaves of the heaven tree. They could see countless spirit fruits hanging on the heaven tree. In this world, there was a waterfall in the sky. Water poured down rapidly, looking like white hair. Thunderous booms resounded endlessly. On the arena, the match had reached its climax. Some won, some lost. Some were happy, and some were crying. The Heaven Chief who had been settled in the inn rushed out, heading to the Heaven Tree Square. Everybody held their breaths, looking forward to the next match. Gong Shu Ban's words surprised Bu Fong. The most important thing was, of course, if he won, he could replace his opponent's position. If he lost, the match would be suspended, and he wouldn't have the chance to challenge anymore. What was the theme of the cooking competition? Cece also had the innate gift of immortal tongue. It was also the reason why Bu Fong had kidnapped Cece. Bu Fong took a deep breath. The 5th layer was the center of the entire Heaven Chief's world. Many monstrous Heaven Chief geniuses were born. That waterfall constantly released energy, which shocked people's eyes. It meant that when the time came, there would be a situation where 4 people would compete in cooking at the same time. Only after the challenges of the other positions had ended would the challenges of the top 10 begin. However, on a massive light screen, there was a stove in front of them. Of course, it was the stove that the officials had prepared. If the contestants had their own immortal tool stove, they could use their own stove. The clamor was deafening in an instant. Bufong wasn't the same as the other Heaven Chief. He couldn't lose. The audience outside the arena was silent. Even Bufong's heart couldn't help but shiver. Indeed, it caused an uproar. The referee said. The referee stood in the center of the vast arena, clasping his hands as he scanned the audience. His sluggish manner infuriated many of the audience members who were watching. His eyes focused, looking straight at the arena. The air was filled with a thick aroma. It was the aroma of the dishes. There were 50 contestants in the finals. Above them was a 7-colored rainbow. The leaves of the heaven tree were rustling, sending down beams of light. They didn't expect that the Heaven Chief from the first layer would have such a day. Finally, everything on the stage was cleared. The 10th? Owner Bu wants to challenge the 10th from the 40th? Gongshu Ban took in a breath of cold air. However, someone challenged the 7th. Why didn't the challenger challenge the 10th? In the finals, more than one person could challenge one person. The challenge of the top 10 was the highlight, so it wouldn't start soon. However, no matter what, the winner would be revealed eventually. Cece gawked, looking at Bufong and then at Gongshu Ban in the distance. Bufong was also in his room, thinking about the dish he would cook for the next match. Would his next opponent have an immortal tongue? The next day, the Heaven Chief competition, the challenge of the top 10. The contestants are Huang Haoyan, Dongfang Hua, Zhou Quangliu, and Bufong. The 10 most monstrous Heaven Chief of the younger generation had appeared. Gongshu Ban said. Shortly after, the challenge situation was shown. It should be known that the top 10 Heaven Chief were all monstrous geniuses. The great demon appeared. Of course, the audience was in an uproar. As for the 7th-ranked Xia Kuei, there was actually a challenger challenging him. Everyone seemed to be suffocated by the pressure of these 10 people. His eyes were so stern. The scenery of the 5th layer was really beautiful. They had taken the teleportation formation to get here, and the beautiful scenery had intoxicated them. Immortal tongue. The moment these 10 people appeared, the atmosphere in the arena instantly became somewhat different. Bufong, who was in the crowd, also sensed it. The latter seemed to sense Bufong's gaze. With a slight glance, Bufong's hair stood on end. The first match of the challenge of the top 10 had made the audience's blood boil. At this moment, Gongshu Ban was sitting on his chair. His consciousness sank into the jade talisman, studying Bufong's opponents. Under the arena, silhouettes dashed out like lightning. Although the immortal city was beautiful, at this moment, everybody was focused on the Heaven Chief competition. No one was in the mood to enjoy the beautiful scenery. Under the arena, Gongshu Ban clenched his fists, his body shivering. It's too hard. The 10th is really strong. We should play it safe. If we can get one, it's one. Gongshu Ban said. Bufong's mind sank into the jade talisman, seeing the top 10 names on the ranking. Don't be afraid. Don't be a coward. Just do it, Bufong said, his face emotionless. Everybody was in an uproar. Around the Heaven Tree Square, it was the same as the 4th layer. It was full of spectators, and almost everyone had a fanatical look on their faces. But in fact, the audience all knew Bufong. Bufong furrowed his brows. He stood up, slowly walking around the room. Black clouds rolled, and lightning bolts struck. The top 10 contestants looked at the 40 people with interest. They were curious about who would challenge them. The rules of the challenge of the top 10 are different. The theme of the dish is decided by the judges. This time, the theme is in my hands. Chapter 1049. The theme of the top 10 competition was announced. With chicken as the theme, no doubt it would be a meat dish. As soon as the 4 Heaven Chief in the arena heard the theme, their eyes brightened. Dongfang was squinted. Then he turned to look at Bufong, as if he wanted to see what kind of dish Bufong would cook. Not far from him, Zhou Quangliu raised his hand, rubbing his chin as he contemplated. The corners of Huang Haoyan's mouth twitched. It seemed the moment he heard the theme, he had made up his mind. The competition didn't give the contestants much time to think about what they would cook. This was the Heaven Chief competition, not an ordinary cooking competition. It wouldn't give them much time to prepare and study their dishes. The truly excellent Heaven Chief needed to have a plan in mind the moment the theme was announced. That way, they would know how to cook the next dish. This was what they meant by having a well-thought-out plan. This was the basic ability of an excellent Heaven Chief. The audience didn't even dare to breathe loudly. They gazed at the arena, watching the 4 Heaven Chief immersed in their thoughts, their faces full of curiosity. They were curious about what kind of dish the 4 Heaven Chief would cook. The referee stood in the middle of the arena. Slowly he walked. Shortly after, he halted his steps. A moment later, explosions arose. Rumble, rumble. In the center of the arena, the 2 sides began to slowly part. Then, the ground bulged, and 4 giant cages emerged from it. The cage was made of fine steel, and the rods emitted a horrifying metallic luster, exuding a chilling aura. The audience exclaimed. The Heaven Chief's eyes shrank, taking in a breath of cold air. That's a high-grade immortal ingredient. Everybody screamed in surprise. Inside those cages were 4 different kinds of chickens. Each of them bloomed with radiance. Some of them had feathers that looked like burning flames. Some of them had rooster combs, their eyes bright and spirited. When they opened their mouths, they could shoot lightning bolts. Some of them had feathers as sharp as steel knives. These chickens were the ingredients for the theme of the competition. All of them were high-grade immortal materials from the fruits of the Heaven Tree. As expected of the competition of the top 10, they even brought out their immortal materials. This is completely different from the previous matches. The atmosphere has changed all of a sudden. I don't know why, but I feel a little nervous. The audience whispered to each other, telling each other something. The judge glanced at the 4 people in the arena with an indifferent gaze. There are 4 types of chickens here. Once you've decided what dish to cook, go up and grab the chicken. As for whether or not you have the ability to grab the chicken, that's up to you. As the Heaven Chief, if you can't even handle the ingredients that are placed in front of you, that means that there's a problem with your ability. The referee said. Dong Fanghua and the others narrowed their eyes, and a bright light shot out from their eyes. Ha ha! The judge's words are reasonable. Since that's the case, it would be impolite of me to refuse. Huang Haoyan burst out laughing after the referee finished speaking. He stomped on the ground and flew up. His chef robe fluttered as he flew toward the steel cage. In just a blink of an eye, he appeared in front of the cage. Of course, we need to compete for the good immortal materials. Even if you're one of the top 10 contestants, I won't give up easily. Out of everyone's expectation, Zhou Guangliu and Dong Fanghua took action at the same time. They all dashed toward the steel cage. There were 4 cages with 4 chickens, but they were 4 different breeds. Of course, the chicken with bright, spirited eyes that looked like a heavenly god was their first choice. All 3 of them were aiming for that chicken. That's the heavenly god immortal chicken. It's the best immortal material among the 4. Indeed, everyone wants to fight for the best chicken. A knowledgeable Heaven Chief explained to the others. Huang Haoyan indifferently looked at his 2 competitors. They dared to compete with him. They didn't know how to live. His mental force surged in his head. A moment later, Huang Haoyan pointed his finger at the void. Instantly, the calm void rippled as if 2 stones had been thrown into it. The ripples expanded everywhere. Shortly after, they hit Dong Fanghua and Zhou Guangliu. Their faces changed. True energy surged on their bodies. They wanted to resist the mental attack. However, their cultivation bases were obviously weaker than Huang Haoyan's. Or it could be said that Huang Haoyan's mental force was much more exquisite than theirs. Thus, they were bewildered. However, as they were bewildered, Huang Haoyan stepped on them. Boom! Boom! The 2 of them fell on the ground, stirring up dust. The audience burst into an uproar. Huang Haoyan was too domineering. The top 10 contestants were really fierce. Ignoring the 2 he had stepped on, Huang Haoyan's eyes fell on the heavenly god immortal chicken in the cage. He smacked the cage open. The celestial chicken let out a cry and dashed out. Its body was extremely fast, and it brought with it a terrifying pressure. Huang Haoyan's eyes shrank as he exclaimed. A moment later, his eyes burned with passion. Worthy of being the heavenly god, immortal chicken. I, Huang Haoyan, must have it. Huang Haoyan's hand glowed, and a red kitchen knife appeared in his hand. The kitchen knife swept horizontally, creating a wave of knife energy. Swish! Tens of thousands of knife energy slashed at the heavenly god, immortal chicken. The chicken flapped its wings, soaring up to the sky to avoid the immortal energy. Swish! 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 A man and a chicken were constantly changing positions in the void. Eventually, they landed. The heavenly god, immortal chicken's wings were broken, and it was held in his hand. Huang Haoyan spun the knife in his hand, putting it away. Holding the chicken, he walked to his arena. He was about to cook his dish. Zhou Quangliu and Dongfang Hua looked at the heavenly god, immortal chicken, reluctantly. Begrudgingly, they could only choose other immortal ingredients. Dongfang Hua chose a chicken with fiery feathers. Zhou Quangliu chose a ferocious-looking chicken with sharp claws. They were all good immortal ingredients. Inside the cage, there was only one immortal chicken with blade-like feathers. No doubt, it was the leftover chicken for Bufang. With his hands clasped behind his back, he walked unhurriedly to the cage. The chicken, whose body was as sharp as a steel knife, opened its mouth and let out a squawk at him. Bufang's face didn't change. He gently shook the vermilion robe. Instantly, the striped red and white vermilion robe changed, turning scarlet. A pair of flaming wings unfolded behind him. An invisible pressure shot out from Bufang's body. It was the supreme pressure of a bird. The blade-like chicken was startled. It stooped its arrogant head, allowing Bufang to take it away. Host, I have to say it again. I'm a vermilion bird, not a chicken. The vermilion bird's indignant voice arose in his head. I got it. The first ancestor of the bird species. Isn't it the first ancestor of the chicken species? It's the same, Bufang said casually. Then, he didn't care about the waves the vermilion bird had stirred in his head. The moment Bufang heard the chicken as the theme, he thought of 80. However, although 80 was an immortal ingredient, its level wasn't high. If he wanted to cook something delicious, he could only make the legendary chicken stewed with mushrooms. However, since the competition staff had prepared a chicken immortal ingredient, Bufang didn't need to use 80, sparing its chicken life. Inside the heaven and earth farmland 80, who was chasing the 8 treasures pig, suddenly had its feathers stand on end. It vigilantly scanned its surroundings. Since they had gotten the immortal ingredients, it was time to deal with them. Plucking its feathers, cutting its belly, taking out its organs, the 4 of them performed this series of actions with great familiarity and fluidity. Their movements were fast and skillful. Of course, compared to other chickens, Bufang's chicken with a steel knife was harder to deal with. Its feathers were as sharp as knives, which was totally unreasonable. However, under Bufang's vermilion robe's vermilion bird's pressure, the chicken's feathers softened, and Bufang easily plucked them. Boom, boom, boom. The corners of Huang Haoyan's mouth rose. He raised his palm. His chef robe fluttered, even though there was no wind. Instantly, a white immortal flame shot out from his hand, twirling around. In the distance, Dongfang Hua's eyes turned red. The blood-colored immortal flame also shot up into the sky. Zhou Quangliu screamed. He flicked his finger, and a dark green immortal flame shot out. At this moment, the Heaven Chief in the arena all showed their immortal flames. Bufang exhaled. The golden lotus demonic flame shot out from his mouth. The 4 flames competed with each other on the arena, and the temperature rose in just a blink of an eye. The other 4 people's eyes focused. All of a sudden, Huang Haoyan took in a breath of cold air. He found that his immortal flame was suppressed. How could it be? His immortal flame was ranked 51st. Frowning, he scanned his surroundings. Then, he found that the golden flame in Bufang's hand was a little strange. Without a doubt, Bufang's golden immortal flame had a higher level than his own. Anyway, so what if it had a higher level? It didn't mean his cooking skills were high. The knife in his hand moved, and the heavenly immortal chicken, whose feathers were plucked, spun unceasingly in the air. Flows of true energy shot out by Huang Hao Yin, entering the heavenly immortal chicken's body. On the other side, Dong Fang Hua and Zhou Kuangliu also started to process the chicken. The dragon bone kitchen knife fell into Bu Fang's hand. After twirling the knife, Bu Fang pressed the chicken's head, then slashed it down. It was a loud thud. A moment later, everybody's eyes were attracted. Seeing Bu Fang cut the chicken into pieces, people had an odd look on their faces. Is the great demon an idiot? How could he cut a chicken into pieces? There's a way to cook chicken, but it's an inferior cooking skill. There's no suspense. When the great demon made his first slash, he lost this match. If I'm not wrong, the great demon's matches are always chef challenges, right? It seems the great demon's knife is going to lose. The audience whispered to each other. They didn't understand Bu Fang's behavior. Far from them, Dong Fanghua looked at Bu Fang's behavior. The corners of his mouth rose, revealing a cold smile. This time, he must win back his silver pterosaur dragon bone knife. Even if the knife was chipped, the steel chicken was cut into chicken cubes, including the chicken's buttocks. The black turtle constellation wok was heated up, and the heavenly mountain spirit spring water was boiling. Bu Fang swept the processed chicken into the wok, blanching it. While blanching, Bu Fang prepared the other ingredients. The host prepared the chicken and the other ingredients. The Heaven Chief had to deal with them. Of course, it was also a test for the Heaven Chief, to test the Heaven Chief's ability to store ingredients. Swish Bu Fang took out the exploding flame peppers, the processed peppers, and a porcelain jar from the system dimensional bag. He opened the lid of the jar, and a sour and spicy smell immediately filled the air. True energy enveloped his palm, and Bu Fang took out a large pile of pickled peppers from the porcelain jar. Of course, in addition to chili, Bu Fang also prepared many other ingredients. For example, he cut some spirit fruits into pieces and set them aside for later use. Sun Mother ginger, scale-tail scallion, and purple garlic were all prepared. Besides, apart from food ingredients, Bu Fang also took out a stone pot from the system storage bag. It was a stone pot made of blood marble, which Bu Fang had collected when he was wandering in hell. It finally came in handy. On the other side, the water in the black turtle constellation wok was already boiling. Bu Fang fished out the chicken pieces and drained them. She placed it into a porcelain bowl, and hot steam rose from the top of the chicken. After emptying the water in the black turtle constellation wok, Bu Fang began to cook. After pouring the oil, Bu Fang took out the chicken pieces from the porcelain bowl and poured them into the wok. In an instant, a sizzling sound rang out. The audience in the arena was bewildered, turning to look at him. They didn't expect that Bu Fang would start to cook now. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Bu Fang didn't mind the others. He held the wok in one hand and the spatula in the other, stirring continuously. Flames burst out from the wok, shooting up into the sky. He shook the wok, and the chicken pieces tumbled. From time to time, oil splashed everywhere. Bu Fang's eyes were sharp, observing the ingredients in the wok. When the chicken pieces were half done, Bu Fang stopped stirring. He poured the sliced Sun Mother ginger into the wok along with the scale-tail, scallion, and purple garlic. Finally, he added the piles of exploding flame peppers and pickled peppers. After that, Bu Fang took out a crystal jar, scooped out a quarter of the improved abyssal chili sauce, and poured it into the wok. Then, he began to stir-fry again. This time, Bu Fang needed to stir-fry until it smelled good. Rumble, rumble. Flames shot up into the sky one more time. Under everyone's dumbfounded gazes, the golden flames were dazzling. After stir-frying for a while, the audience was bewildered, sniffing. In the air, there was a thick, meaty aroma mixed with the aroma of pickled peppers. Bu Fang grabbed the black turtle constellation wok, shaking it rhythmically. Smelling this aroma, Bu Fang couldn't help but smile. He didn't want to cook stewed chicken with mushrooms, so Bu Fang wanted to cook a more violent dish, seeing so many peppers and pickled peppers, as well as the improved abyssal chili sauce. One could imagine how violent and unyielding this dish was. This dish had a nice name. Bu Fong called it the abyssal stone pot fighting chicken. Chapter 10:50. That's right. It was a fighting chicken. It tasted so spicy. Of course, it could also be called spicy chicken. As Bu Fong stir-fried the chicken, the entire Heaven Tree Square was filled with the thick aroma of the dish. The aroma of the chicken mixed with the taste of pickled peppers. The sour and spicy flavor filled the air, making people salivate. After stir-frying for a while, the chicken pieces in the black turtle constellation wok turned orange. The chicken skin covering the chicken slightly shivered. It was almost time to stop stir-frying. He took the blood marble wok, cleaned it, and used the golden lotus demonic flame to heat up. Wisps of faint blood gas diffused above the blood marble wok, together with a faint aroma. It was an aroma that could make people calm down. Of course, it wasn't the main point. He took out the food from the black turtle constellation wok, putting it into the blood marble wok. Then, he carefully piled the cut spirit fruits on top of the chicken pieces. He cut the exploding flame peppers into pieces, placing them on the wok like the spirit fruits. Bu Fong opened his mouth, spurting a small wisp of the golden lotus demonic flame. He controlled the flame, making it slowly burn under the blood marble wok. It began to simmer for a while. On the other side, in the clean black turtle constellation wok, Bu Fong dried the wok and poured the oil into it, heating it up. Rumble. In the sky, slowly, a dark cloud swept over. Those dark clouds were so thick, gathering unceasingly. Not only Bu Fong's side, but several people in the distance also had black clouds coming over their heads. Obviously, like Bu Fong, they had also begun to enter the finishing stage of their dishes. Huang Haoyan's team of 3 didn't cook chicken pieces like Bu Fong. They cooked a whole chicken. However, from the color, people could tell that the chicken they cooked was different. Huang Haoyan's chicken had a smooth skin, which had a faint gold hue. It looked like fluorescent light was moving on it. Zhou Guanglio's dish was a scarlet chicken, which looked like it was about to burn. And Dongfang's dish was a roasted chicken with sauce. Of course, it was just the surface. There was more to it. They had to taste it carefully to know. The dark clouds in the sky shrouded over. The audience all raised their heads and looked at the black cloud, their hearts surging. The arrival of the dark clouds meant that the dish was coming to an end, and the winner would be decided soon. Everyone was curious as to who would win and who would lose. The Heaven Chief's attention was focused on the match on the stage. In the distance, the top 10 geniuses from the 5th floor, the Heaven Chief, watched coldly. There was a hint of playfulness in their eyes. Shui Yao, who do you think will win this match? A man in a black chef robe asked a beautiful woman not far from him. This woman was also a Heaven Chief, rank 6. Her culinary skills were superb. Of course, it's Huang Haoyan. Although Huang Haoyan is ranked last among the 10 of us, he's not someone these newbies can beat. The woman called Shui Yao said with a faint smile. The man in the black chef robe was called Meng Kuan, and he grinned when he heard that. Did you see the chef who cut the chicken into pieces? He's this year's dark horse. People call him the Great Demon. Meng Kuan said. So what? Which term doesn't have dark horses? However, aren't the dark horses in every term completely crushed by the top 10? Shui Yao pouted her lips. She was very confident in her cooking skills. Be quiet. Watch the match. The result will be out soon. However, as the two of them were about to argue, the man in the lead gave them an indifferent look, which made them stop talking. That man was the leader of the top 10, the number 1 Heaven Chief, Lu Yi. Rumble. Thunder boomed in the sky, and the sky darkened instantly. In the layers of clouds, there seemed to be a lightning dragon moving, bringing terrifying waves. Bu Fong lifted his head to look at the sky, his brows furrowing. As a matter of fact, his dish was already finished. However, Bu Fong wasn't satisfied with that. If he just served it like that, he wouldn't be able to win. Thus, Bu Fong wanted to sublimate his dish. In his spirit sea, his thoughts surged. Instantly, a powerful mental force swept out of his head like a storm. In just a blink of an eye, it covered the blood marble pot. Under the slow burning of the golden lotus demonic flame, The dish in the blood marble pot was slowly boiling. The aroma also became thick and mellow. The spirit fruit was ripe, emitting a fragrance. Sour, spicy, and sweet. 3 flavors burst out instantly. In Bu Fong's spirit sea, the little aroma was still shuttling back and forth, changing from one ingredient to another. Below the arena, Lu Yi's eyes narrowed as he looked in Bu Fong's direction. Gazing at Bu Fong, light flashed in his eyes. What a strong mental force. What a fine energy control. Lu Yi exclaimed in admiration, but that was all. Seems like the winner is still unknown. Lu Yi played with his fingers, grinning. Rumble, rumble. In the sky, thunder boomed. The ear-splitting sound made people's hair stand on end. Dong Fanghua had finished his dish. It was a thick roasted chicken. Its skin was scarlet, and a dark brown sauce was poured over it, which made its taste sublimate. Around the roasted chicken was a circle of stir-fried dishes. With a closer look, one could see that those dishes were actually the chicken's innards. Dong Fanghua had processed those innards, placing them around the roasted chicken, which made the chicken more complete. The aroma was thick, steaming hot. Zhou Guangliu had also finished his dish. His dish looked a little similar to Dong Fanghua's. The two looked at each other and saw the fighting spirit in each other's eyes. However, they were clear that their real opponent was Huang Haoyan, the immortal chef in the top 10. However, when they saw Huang Haoyan's dish, they were bewildered. Huang Haoyan had used 2 plates. One of the plates was filled with a cooked golden chicken, while the other plate was filled with baked pancakes. Around the pancakes were green spirit vegetables. What kind of operation was that? They didn't know, so they didn't want to know. Eventually, their eyes shifted, falling on Bu Fong in the distance. However, with just a glance, they lost all interest. Most importantly, Bu Fong's dish didn't have anything special. He had cut the chicken into pieces, which was such a low-class method. It couldn't show the essence of chicken cooking. The great demon was digging his own grave. No wonder people said that when the great demon chopped off the chicken's head, it meant that he had failed. It made some sense. However, was Bu Fong really defeated? His mind relaxed. He took it out of the blood marble pot. Instantly, the dish in the pot glowed. Gurgle. Inside the black turtle constellation wok, hot oil rolled. Bu Fong bit a spoonful of the steaming oil, then poured it over the blood marble pot. Sizzle. As the oil was poured in, the entire blood marble pot seemed to come alive. Instantly, tens of thousands of gold beams shot out. So beautiful. Abyssal stone pot fighting chicken. Done. Bu Fong used a clean cloth to wipe the oil around the blood marble pot. He took a step back, exhaling. His words fell. In the distance, Dong Fanghua was full of energy. His fighting will was strong as he gazed at Bu Fong. 9-turn roast chicken. Done. Zhou Guangliu snapped his fingers. Scarlet flame, roast chicken. Done. Huang Haoyan shook his chef robe, the corners of his mouth rising. Heavenly immortal roast chicken. Done. The 4 of them had finished their dishes almost at the same time. At the same time, in the sky, the dark clouds had reached the pinnacle. Rumbling sounds rang out incessantly. Then in the rolling dark clouds, a thunder dragon emerged, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. The audience screamed in surprise, looking at the arena. The cooking was done. After the lightning punishment, they would know who was the winner. However, when the lightning punishment reached the sky, it began to attack each other. This scene did not come as a surprise to many people. With the great demon here, the first challenge of the competition was the lightning punishment. Whoever's lightning punishment was stronger would have a better dish. Of course, Huang Haoyan had heard about the great demon, so he was a little interested. He was extremely confident in his dish. In fact, all the top 10 Heaven Chief were confident in their dishes. They believed that they wouldn't lose. Boom, boom. Dong Fanghua gazed at the void. This time, he couldn't be defeated. He had tried his best. To cook this dish, his mental force had almost been drained. Thus, he didn't have any hope of defeating Huang Haoyan. However, he hoped to kill Bu Fong. He wanted to win back his silver pterosaur dragon bone knife. For lightning strikes collided, booming unceasingly. The first wave of attacks collided. Electric sparks flashed, scattering each other. The second wave of thunder dragons stormed. They were tearing and biting each other. Lightning sparks and fire shadows rumbled, scattering at the same time. When the third wave of the lightning calamity appeared, the audience was extremely excited. Everyone raised their heads, wanting to know who the winner was. Zhou Guangliu's face changed, because he found that his thunder dragon was at a disadvantage. How could it be? Was his dish going to be defeated? No. Zhou Guangliu's desperate eyes shrank, gazing at the thunder dragon in the void. The thunder dragons, who were confronting each other, suddenly changed their attacking rhythm. It became 3 against 1, 3 against 1. The audience was in an uproar. Anyway, it wasn't surprising. Huang Haoyan's cooking skills were exquisite, so it wasn't too much for him to defeat 3 against 1. However, shortly, the audience found something fishy. No, it's not 3 against Huang Haoyan's thunder dragon. The lightning being targeted is the great demons. Oh my god, what's going on? In the top 10 match, the great demon is still fighting 3 against 1. No one had expected that the one being targeted was Bu Feng's thunder dragon. Although Bu Feng frowned, he didn't mind it. He just gazed at the void. Boom! With an explosion, the sky suddenly blossomed with a dazzling brilliance, causing everyone to be unable to clearly see what was happening in the sky. Eventually, everything vanished. The dark clouds scattered. The 4 thunder dragons were evenly matched. Immortal energy was flowing out of the dishes. The smile on Huang Haoyan's face disappeared. He gazed at Bu Feng. Although the thunder dragons didn't mean that Bu Feng would win, he would always hold a grudge against him. He gazed at Bu Feng, his eyes solemn. The lightning disappeared, and the referee dashed into the field. He indifferently looked around. Sniffing the aroma in the air, he took a deep breath. Now, I invite the 4 Heaven Chief judges to serve their dishes. The judges will taste and decide the winner. The judge said. The air was filled with a rich fragrance, and he couldn't help but want to eat some. Huang Haoyan dragged his 2 porcelain plates, flying up into the sky. Shortly after, he appeared at the judges' table, placing his dishes there. Dong Fanghua and Zhou Guangliu got on the stage at the same time, placing their dishes in front of the judges. Bu Feng held the blood marble pot with one hand, walking to the judges' table. Thud! He placed his dish on the table. At this moment, the 4 contestants' dishes were all ready. An extremely dense, immortal energy rose from the dish, lingering around it. Some flames shot up into the sky. Some were like immortals, some were overflowing with light, and some were radiant. Whose dish would be the winner? Everyone was curious at this moment. The judges exchanged glances with each other. Then they picked up their chopsticks. Chapter 10:51. The 4th layer of the Heaven Chief realm, a slender figure floated over. City Lord Meng Qi landed in front of an exquisite courtyard. The courtyard had a leisurely atmosphere, and there were spiritual trees swaying in the wind, their leaves fluttering in the wind. Looking at the quiet courtyard, City Lord Meng Qi couldn't help but force a smile. Seems like I'm late. That dog is really... City Lord Meng Qi shook her head helplessly, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. She didn't have any deep grudge against the Lord Go. Quite the contrary, her relationship with the Lord Go was much better than the other city lords' relationship with the Lord Go. After all, that year, she and the Lord Go had a story that had to be told. It was when the Lord Go had just arrived in the Heaven Chief realm. City Lord Meng Qi recalled. Then she clasped her hands, slowly walking to the treasure chamber. The treasure chamber was a mess. Some immortal materials and spirit herbs were all taken. However, the Lord Go didn't care about the immortal tools. Apparently, to the Lord Go, he only needed immortal materials and spirit herbs. Walking out of the courtyard, City Lord Meng Qi stood in the center of the courtyard. The pavilions, terraces, and the tranquility of the flowing river made her calm down. I heard from the city lord of that layer that the Lord Go has a special relationship with the owner of that restaurant. Is that owner participating in the Heaven Chief competition? I want to see what's so special about a chef who has a special relationship with the Lord Go. City Lord Meng Chi's red lips parted. Her cold face revealed a faint smile. A moment later, she strode forward, tearing the void, heading to the 5th floor of Heaven Chief Realm. At the same time, after City Lord Feng had gone crazy, his eyes reddened. He punched a cabinet in the treasure chamber, and thick energy gushed out from his mouth and nose. That damn dog. It actually took that Qilin chef's heart. No, the heart can't be exposed. We have to force that dog out. City Lord Feng's eyes were ruthless as he strode out of the treasure pavilion. Tong Wudi from the 1st floor once said that the dog has a close relationship with the owner of that restaurant. If we can't find that dog, we can only capture the chef. That way, we can force that damn dog to appear. The Heaven Chief competition? Oof. Who do you want to try first? A judge asked the other judges with a smile as he held his chopsticks. The 4 dishes were all excellent dishes that had triggered 3 lightning tribulations. Furthermore, the immortal energy on the dishes was extremely dense, and their quality was also very high. There are 4 dishes. Why don't we taste one of them first? A judge suggested. The other judges immediately agreed. Little Dit rolled his eyes at the 4 old men, mumbling to himself. Did they exclude him? Of course, the judges didn't ignore Little Dit. On the contrary, they asked Little Dit to taste the 4 dishes. Little Dit nodded in satisfaction. These old men knew how to adapt to circumstances. A judge walked to Dongfang Hua's dish. Dongfang Hua's dish was called 9-turn roast chicken. It was a scarlet roast chicken with brown sauce, steam, and fragrance diffused from it. Moreover, immortal energy twirled around it, rolling and surging. The judge looked at the roast chicken, carefully assessing it. Eventually, he put down his chopsticks, rolled up his sleeves, and grabbed the chicken leg, pulling it out. Swish! The chicken leg was pulled off from the roast chicken. When it was torn, the elastic chicken skin was still attached to it, so it didn't fall off. The chicken meat was like silk being pulled off one by one. Steam and fragrance gushed out. The thick brown sauce that was poured over the drumstick slowly flowed down as the drumstick was pulled off the ground. You have to use your hands to eat the chicken. That's the feeling. The judge rolled up his sleeves, rubbing his white beard as he grinned. Then, he shoved the chicken leg into his mouth. As his teeth closed, the chicken meat was soft and tender. In just a blink of an eye, it slid into his mouth. Instantly, the aroma diffused. Wisps of thick essence energy flowed in the old man's mouth. When the chicken skin was sucked into his mouth, the old man couldn't help but arch his brows. Not bad. The heat is just right. The 9-turn roast chicken has gone through 9 changes of heat. The judge ate and commented at the same time. The taste of his sauce is also unique. It seems to be made from the meat of various spirit beasts and 18 immortal ingredients. You can taste the ever-changing flavor. The judge stuck out his tongue, licking the sauce on the chicken leg, clicking his tongue to praise it. Around, the audience watched the judge eat with relish. They couldn't help but swallow their saliva, feeling their appetites rise. Roast chicken could easily stimulate their appetite. Munch, munch. That judge ate fast. Shortly after, the chicken leg was turned into a chicken bone, which he threw on the table. Anyway, it's not perfect. Overall, it's the best among the judges of Immortal Chef's cooking. The judge gave his final comment. While the judge was commenting, Little Dit also pulled a chicken leg, shoving it into his mouth. He ate with relish. It doesn't taste bad, but that's it. Little Dit finished the chicken leg, spitting the bone on the table, grinning. Far from them, Dongfang Hua felt good after the judge had finished his comment. However, after hearing Little Dit comment, his face darkened. This is Zhou Quangliu's dish. It's also a roast chicken, called Scarlet Flame Roast Chicken. Another judge, who was cold and aloof, said casually. It could be said that Dongfang Hua's and Zhou Quangliu's dishes had some conflicts. However, it wasn't a big deal, as it all depended on the finished cooking. The judge plucked off a drumstick. There seemed to be flames flickering on the drumstick. That should be the so-called scarlet flame. Something flashy but impractical. The judge shook his head indifferently. He didn't appreciate the effect. After the chicken leg entered his mouth and tasted it, the judge frowned. It tasted good. Perhaps Zhou Guangliu had done it on purpose, but the chicken skin was a little tender. He bit it, but it wasn't as elastic as he had imagined. He directly tore it off. Under the skin, the chicken meat was tender and tender, with steam and aroma twirling around. All in all, it was similar to Dongfang Hua's dish. To be specific, it was the difference in the taste. The judge's comment didn't stop the audience's appetite. The massive light screen projected the scarlet flame roast chicken. The roast chicken was steaming, and the chicken skin seemed to glow dazzlingly. Little Dit came over and pulled out another chicken leg. Stuffing it into his mouth, he fiddled with it for a while. Eventually, he took out a bone and smashed it on the table. He smacked his lips. It's also a roast chicken. The taste isn't bad. However, if we want to judge the winner, the 9-turn roast chicken is better, Little Dit said. Little Dit's words bewildered the judges. Why? The two judges exchanged looks, seeing the strange look in each other's eyes. 2 reasons. First, the 9-turn roast chicken has a more varied and exquisite taste, while the Scarlet Flame roast chicken adds the fire element. It looks innovative, but it's actually old-fashioned. Second, the 9-turn roast chicken is delicious. This is the most straightforward reason. Little Dit clasped his hands, speaking eloquently. What do you know? How can my Scarlet Flame roast chicken lose? However, as soon as Little Dit finished talking, Zhou Guangliu's face changed, and he shouted, "You're just a freeloader. Why did you learn to be a judge? What do you know?" Zhou Guangliu said coldly. In Little Di Tai's mouth, his food wasn't worth a coin. How could he swallow this anger? Bufang was surprised, looking at Zhou Guangliu. This fellow had big guts. He dared to say that the Realm Lord was a freeloader. Although it wasn't the Realm Lord's real body, he was still the only high-grade Qilin chef in the Heaven Chief realm. A Qilin chef commenting on an immortal chef's dish didn't have any pressure. Little Dit narrowed his eyes. You dare to question me? Good. You're out. Little Dit's wings flapped, and he stood on the table. He placed his hands on his waist, and his lower body bloomed with holy light. Zhou Guangliu's face darkened. The two judges couldn't stand it anymore. Well, I'll try Dongfang Hua's dish, and you should try the Scarlet Flame roast chicken. The two judges decided to make a compromise. Then, they tore off the chicken's wings and started to eat. As they tasted it, their eyes lit up. At this moment, the way they looked at Little Di Tai was different. Little Dit's evaluation was very accurate. It could be said that it was a perfect evaluation. They didn't expect that this freeloader could be so good. Eventually, the two judges made their final decision. Scarlet Flame roast chicken and 9-turn roast chicken. The winner is 9-turn roast chicken. The other two judges couldn't help but taste the dishes as well. They had already forgotten about the rule of each person tasting one dish. Zhou Guangliu's face changed. He couldn't believe it. I lost. Zhou Guangliu felt depressed in his heart. That freeloader had actually hit the nail on the head. All right, let's move on to the next dish, Contestant Bufang's Abyssal Stone Pot Fighting Chicken. The judges didn't pay attention to Zhou Guangliu anymore. They had seen so many losers like him, so they weren't surprised. Their eyes fell on the blood-colored stone pot. This was Bufang's dish. It was also the only dish that didn't use a whole chicken in this chicken cooking competition. Honestly, the judges didn't think highly of Bufang's dish. It was mainly because they thought that cooking chicken cubes was a low-class cooking method. Cutting the chicken into pieces would ruin the chicken's smooth texture, making the essence of the chicken lose. However, since it was a contestant's dish, they couldn't say that Bufang lost without tasting it. It wasn't the judges' style. Thus, the 4 judges, including Little Dit, came to the Abyssal Stone Pot Fighting Chicken, blinking their eyes. The 5 judges exchanged looks. Then they grabbed their chopsticks, reaching for the chicken cubes in the stone pot. The chicken in the stone pot bloomed with golden light. That golden light couldn't be suppressed, shooting up into the sky. The fragrance and immortal energy swirled around. Not only the aroma of the chicken, but also the spicy aroma of all kinds of peppers. This kind of pepper looks strange. It should be fermented, so it's a little sour. Anyway, it makes people salivate when they smell it. No matter what this dish is, the ingredients aren't bad. The judges hadn't started to eat yet, but they had already approved the ingredients. The appearance of pickled peppers seemed to have changed their worldview. The Heaven Chief realm also had peppers, but they rarely used them to make pickled peppers. The main reason was that the Heaven Chief realm didn't like spicy dishes. Little Dit didn't care about that. He had been craving for Bu Fong's dish for a long time. He reached his chopsticks into the pot. Because his hands were too small, he tried several times, but he couldn't get the chicken cubes out. Smack! The angry Little Dit threw his chopsticks aside, grabbing the chicken cubes with 2 fingers and shoving them into his mouth. As soon as it entered his mouth, Little Dit was completely bewildered. His eyes widened. His face turned red at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was so red that it turned purple. The other judges also moved their chopsticks, picking up the shiny chicken cubes and shoving them into their mouths. A moment later, the 4 judges were stunned on the spot. Outside the arena, the audience saw the judges' expressions through the giant screen. They all held their breaths. They were really curious. What kind of dish did the great demon cook this time? It would not be able to give people an intuitive visual experience like cooking a whole chicken. But everyone felt that this series of arguments was completely ineffective in the face of the great demon's battle chicken. The great demon's chicken nuggets were different. Not just any chicken nugget. Little Dit's entire face changed color as he ate. His mouth was wide open and he kept breathing out hot air. It was because of the spiciness. Pickled pepper, exploding flame pepper, and enhanced abyssal chili sauce. It was impossible for it not to be spicy. As a fighting chicken, it had to be so spicy that it made you doubt your life. So spicy that you couldn't stop. The judges nodded and commented for a while. Then, they started to dip their chopsticks into the blood marble pot again. They took out the chicken nuggets and began to eat. Far from them, Dongfanghua's face was extremely grimaced. The joy he felt from defeating Zhou Guangliu was washed away at this moment. The judge's expression, the judge's posture, felt strangely familiar. Instantly, he had a bad premonition. Was he going to lose again? Although the judges hadn't announced the winner yet, the feeling in his heart was getting stronger. He turned to look at Bu Fong in the distance. Bu Fong clasped his hands, his face indifferent. He didn't look surprised at all. This calmness made Dongfanghua's heart burn like a flame. No, he wasn't going to lose. The great demon was cooking chicken nuggets, which had a fatal flaw. He couldn't lose. Unbelievable. It's almost perfect. This is a great innovation. Indeed, he's using a brand new cooking method to make up for the chicken nuggets flaw. I can only say that this fighting chicken is delicious. I want more after eating it. The judges praised. The audience was in an uproar. Dongfanghua's face was stiff. Could it be that the flaw in the chicken nuggets, which would cause the essence and energy of the chicken to flow out, didn't exist in the great demon's dish? No doubt, the winner of this match is Bu Fong's fighting chicken. The judge spat out a small piece of bone, licking his oily mouth. As soon as he finished, the entire audience burst into an uproar. Oh my God, he defeated Dongfanghua's roast chicken with a chicken nugget dish? It's the first time I've seen a low-end chicken nugget dish win. The great demon is indeed the great demon. He's always creating miracles. The audience was so shocked that they couldn't help but chatter. The great demon had won, which meant that Dongfanghua and Bu Fong's second match had ended in failure. Dongfanghua's face turned as red as a pig's liver. King lost again. He lost to a dish cooked with a steel knife chicken. The great demon was toxic. Dongfanghua couldn't question the judges' impartiality because they were all level 3 Heaven Chief. They wouldn't cover up for Bu Fong. Moreover, even if they did, they wouldn't cover up for a Heaven Chief who had come from the first layer. Thus, no doubt, he was defeated. Dongfanghua's confidence collapsed. He staggered a few steps back and even hit the stove. The blood drained from his face, as if he had lost his soul. I lost again. After losing to Bu Fong twice in a row, Dong Fanghua had completely lost his faith. In the distance, Huang Haotian looked at Dong Fanghua, who had lost his soul. His eyes couldn't help but narrow. No doubt, after 2 matches, Dong Fenghua's faith was shattered. He had completely lost the chance to condense the heart of cooking path. How sad and lamentable. He didn't expect that the great demon could win with a chicken nugget dish like that. The corners of Huang Haotian's mouth rose. He was suddenly interested. He wondered if his heavenly immortal roast chicken could beat Bu Feng's fighting chicken. He was really looking forward to it. After evaluating Bu Feng's dish, the judges walked to Huang Haotian's dish. It was the last dish of the 4 contestants. It was also the dish that everyone was looking forward to, because it was the dish cooked by the top 10 contestants. Huang Haotian's dish was projected on a massive light screen. That dish radiated light and vibrant colors. The chicken skin was so smooth, with a pale gold hue. It seemed to have light twinkling on it, which was full of special meaning. It wasn't a roast chicken. It was a roast chicken, and it was the only roast chicken in this competition. However, from its appearance, it didn't look like a roast chicken. It looked more like a boiled chicken. The strangest thing was that it was served on 2 plates. Dear judges, please allow me to explain this dish to all of you. While the judges were curiously watching the 2 dishes, Huang Haotian appeared on the judging panel, as if he had teleported. The judges looked at Huang Haotian and nodded. Buzz, a pitch-black kitchen knife, appeared in Huang Haotian's hand. This was his immortal tool, kitchen knife. Judging from its extraordinary energy fluctuations, it should be a high-grade immortal tool. My chicken has a world inside it, and the way it's eaten is also very particular, Huang Haotian said indifferently. He rolled up his sleeves and held the chicken's neck with one hand. In the next moment, the kitchen knife slowly cut the chicken's back. Cracking sounds rang out incessantly. Through the giant light screen, the audience's curiosity was piqued. They stared at the dish with a strange look. With a crack, the chicken's back was cut open. However, because Huang Haotian was pressing down on his neck, even though there was a thin seam, it didn't split open. Now is the time for a miracle. Huang Haotian grinned. Below the arena, the beautiful Shui Yao smiled and shook her head. The corner of Meng Kuan's mouth twitched. It's Huang Haotian style as always. His cooking attitude is so high profile. His dishes aren't as simple as they look. They're really creative. Seems like Huang Haotian will win this match. The 2 of them commented. As they were also the top 10 contestants of the Heaven Chief competition, they had studied Huang Haotian a lot. Most importantly, Huang Haotian had an immortal tongue. His exquisite control of the taste of his dishes was something they couldn't compare with. Among the top 10, only 3 people had immortal tongues. Huang Haotian was one of them. Lu Yi, who ranked first, and Feng Xian, who ranked second. Huang Haotian was a weirdo. He had an immortal tongue, which was a cheat, but he was ranked 10th. This was also related to his cooking style. Although he had an immortal tongue, he was still far away from condensing the heart of cooking path. Compared to the other contestants, the ones who were infinitely close to condensing the heart of cooking path were much weaker. It was also the reason why Huang Haotian could only rank 10th. Huang Haotian loosened his hand. Instantly, under the gazes of tens of thousands of people, under the giant light screen, the chicken's back slowly cracked. Beams of light, steam, and aroma diffused from the chicken's back. The thick, viscous gravy expanded with a thick aroma, filling the entire place in just a blink of an eye. The audience was stunned by this scene. They couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. This dish is awesome. It has a world inside. That gravy was thick, but it was full of flavor. The thick aroma filled the entire place. However, Huang Haotian didn't stop. The kitchen knife spun in his hand. Then he cut the chicken meat. Carefully and neatly, he placed it on another porcelain plate. Picking up the baked flatbread, he stuffed the fresh spirit vegetable leaves and the chicken meat into it. Finally, he dipped the chicken's belly in the gravy. Then, he handed the dish to one of the judges. Judges, please taste it. Huang Haotian wore a confident smile on his face. It was a very creative dish. The judges were attracted by Huang Haotian's dish. His skills dazzled their eyes. The gravy in the chicken's belly, the cut meat, and the baked flatbread, all of them were beyond their expectations. However, just when everyone was incomparably astonished. However, there was one person who revealed an incomparably astonished and playful expression. That person was Bufong. Looking at the confident Huang Hao-Ian, Bufong couldn't help but twitch the corners of his mouth. He felt sorry for Huang Hao-Ian. Isn't this heavenly immortal roast chicken the same as the roast duck I used to cook? Bufong muttered under his breath. It's just my leftover tricks, Bufong mumbled in a low voice. Basically, no one heard him. However, the judge standing closest to Bufong heard him. He wondered if he had misheard him. He couldn't help but stare at Bufong. As if he could feel the judge's gaze, Bufong's mouth twitched. He said to the judge, "This time, I'll win." The judges held the scalding flatbread. The aroma of the flatbread and the meat diffused at the same time. Moreover, the gravy in the chicken's belly had been fermenting for a long time. It had elevated the dish's taste to a whole new level. The judges exchanged looks. Eventually, they opened their mouths, biting the flatbread. Crunching sounds rose and fell. While the judges were biting the flatbread outside the Heaven Tree Square, the void was torn apart. A graceful, slender figure slowly walked out of it, clasping her hands. Her long, black hair swayed as she looked at the Heaven Tree Square. City Lord Mingqi looked at the sea of people in the Heaven Tree Square. She smiled, then walked toward the square with small steps. Not long after City Lord Mingqi left, the void was violently torn apart. City Lord Feng walked out of it, his face dark and gloomy. Looking at the square, the corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile. Chapter 10:53. The first layer of the Heaven Chief world, the void, split open. A fat black dog slowly walked out with elegant cat-like steps. Behind the black dog were two figures. The young girl, Hua, carried a huge sack on her back, which was filled to the brim. Next to Little Flower was the bald Black Dragon King. The Black Dragon King was also carrying a huge sack on his back. He was grinning from ear to ear. From time to time, he would burp, which was filled with thick essence energy. We've walked around the Heaven Chief world, and now we're back where we started? The Black Dragon King narrowed his eyes, grinning from ear to ear. After walking around the Heaven Chief world, the Black Dragon King's aura had become much more powerful. Apparently, in the process of plundering and devouring, his cultivation base had broken through to the true immortal realm. We've been to the cultivation places of the other city lords. Of course, we can't neglect one. Let's go to the cultivation places of the first layer's city lords. The Lord Go walked with elegant cat-like steps, his gentle and magnetic voice resounding. The Black Dragon King's eyes lit up. Hua didn't say anything, just nodding her head slightly. Then, two people and a dog disappeared once again. When they reappeared, they were in the Tong family's residence. Recently, Tong Wudi had been having a headache. Everything he had planned seemed to deviate from what he had expected. At first, he thought that the appearance of the four city lords would be able to chase that black dog out of the Heaven Chief world. That way, he would be able to deal with Bufong. However, he didn't expect that the appearance of the four city lords would result in nothing. After spending so much effort, they only managed to cut off a strand of dog fur. Most importantly, he had discovered the restaurant's secret. That restaurant seemed to have some great mysteries. How should I deal with that chef? What a headache. Tong Wudi furrowed his brows, rubbing the space between his brows as he exhaled deeply. All of a sudden, a frightening figure rushed into the main hall with a panicked face. City Lord. Not good. The treasure. The treasure pavilion has been robbed. A guard's face was filled with panic. The treasury was robbed? Tong Wudi opened his eyes, and a sharp glint flashed in his eyes. What kind of thief dares to rob my city lord's mansion? Tong Wudi roared. In the next moment, a powerful aura burst out from his body. He tore through the void and dashed out of the city lord's mansion in an instant, heading towards the treasury. From afar, one could see the huge gap in the treasury. Seeing this gap, Tong Wudi's eyes turned red. How dare you? Where did the hair come from? Hair, 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 hair. Tong Woody was about to shout, but his words were suddenly stuck in his throat. His eyes instantly widened and were filled with disbelief. Along with his roar, a figure slowly walked out from the gap in the treasure house. Enchanting cat-like steps, a dark and fat body, it was a black dog. It was the dog that the 4 city lords were looking for. How did this King dog appear here? For a moment, Tong Woody didn't know what to say. His body froze on the spot, not daring to move an inch. The Lord Go indifferently glanced at Tong Woody, his doggy mouth instantly curling up. A moment later, he walked out with the Black Dragon King and Hua, who had plundered the treasury clean. Waves of air shot up to the sky. 2 people and a dog instantly disappeared. All of a sudden, the Lord Go, who was stepping in the void, swung his paw. The exquisite dog paw descended, instantly turning the entire treasure room into rubble. Tong Woody could only watch as the treasure room was destroyed, but he didn't dare to make the slightest move. That dog, he couldn't afford to provoke it. He wanted to cry, but no tears came out. TSK, TSK. The Lord Go is really ruthless. After taking all the treasures, he didn't leave a single brick or tile behind. The Black Dragon King grinned. He held an immortal ingredient in his hand, nibbling on it from time to time. The thick spirit energy in the spirit fruit made the Black Dragon King feel as though his entire body was being washed. I'm just teaching him a little lesson. Otherwise, why do you think the 4 great city lords would come looking for us? The Lord Go said casually. The Black Dragon King was bewildered. A moment later, he slapped his thigh and shouted, as though he had gained enlightenment. The 3 of them turned into a beam of light. Soon, they returned to the Heaven Chief restaurant. Pushing the door open, 2 people and a dog stepped into the restaurant. As soon as they entered the restaurant, the Lord Go's brows suddenly arched. On the 2nd floor, a series of footsteps rang out. A moment later, Yu's cold figure emerged. Leaning on the wall, she slowly walked out. Yu's face was pale, without any color. Her aura was a little unstable. The Lord Go made a sound of surprise, then furrowed his brows. Light sparkled in his dog's eyes. A moment later, in the Lord Go's eyes, he saw the green cursed snake coiling around Yu's body. Crunch. Crunch. The 4 judges bit the flatbread at the same time. The flatbread wasn't hard. Quite the contrary, it was a little soft, as though it was filled with air. With one bite, the flatbread was so soft. After biting the flatbread, they tasted the crispy spirit vegetables and then the fragrant grilled chicken. The ever-changing taste caused the expressions on the judges' faces to change constantly. The flatbread was soft, the spirit vegetables were sweet, and the chicken was tender. They all spread out on the tip of their tongues, moving down their throats and into their bodies. That feeling was really wonderful. Huang Haotian clasped his hands, standing in front of the judge's platform. He confidently watched the judges indulge in his food. The surrounding audience also revealed looks of amazement. Worthy of the top 10 of the Heaven Chief competition, his dishes are tasted in such a strange way. Flatbread with meat and spirit vegetables. It's almost perfect. I really want to taste it. The audience chattered nonstop, and the sound of swallowing rang out incessantly. After tasting the food for a while, the judges didn't say anything. The originally warm atmosphere suddenly became a little stagnant. Bufong was calm. He clasped his hands, looking at the judge's platform. The judge had a strange expression on his face. He had clearly heard Bufong's words. What did he mean by it was his leftover trick? Could it be that Bufong had cooked such a dish before? Now, this was getting interesting. The referee suddenly felt that the results seemed to be a bit more suspenseful. The judges didn't say anything, which made the atmosphere a little awkward. Huang Haotian's face stiffened. Judges, haven't you made up your mind yet? Huang Haotian frowned, asking. He was confident in his dish, but he didn't know why the judges hadn't decided the winner yet. Could it be that something unexpected was going to happen? The judges didn't answer Huang Haotian. Huang Haotian's dish wasn't bad. It was full of creativity, and it tasted really good. The subtle control of the taste had brought the deliciousness of the food to the extreme. But Compared to Bufong's fighting chicken, this dish felt like it was lacking something. What was it lacking after all? They couldn't explain it clearly. Why haven't the judges announced the final result? Shui Yao was bewildered. She didn't understand the judge's decision. Meng Kuan couldn't help but furrow his brows. I feel like the judges have a different opinion. Is Huang Haoyan's dish not good enough? Many people from the top 10 of the Heaven Chief competition furrowed their brows, their eyes solemn. No, the judges are hesitating and thinking. Huang Haoyan's dish isn't bad, but he made a serious mistake. While people were contemplating, the aloof Lu Yi opened his mouth. Shui Yao and the others looked at him suspiciously. A serious mistake? Shui Yao and the others took in a breath of cold air. Where was the mistake? Why didn't they see it? Lu Yi clasped his hands, his calm eyes gazing forward. Eventually, his gaze fell on Bufong. Looking at Bufong, who was so calm, his eyes focused. A big mistake in the choice of ingredients, Lu Yi said. Huang Haoyan's cooking method is very creative and novel, but it's flawed when used in this chicken competition. Why? Meng Kuan asked. All of a sudden, Meng Kuan seemed to recall something, taking in a breath of cold air. Lu Yi, you mean? Huang Haoyan's choice of ingredients was wrong. He shouldn't have used chicken, but some other spirit beast meat? Lu Yi clasped his hands, nodding. Actually, it wasn't a mistake. No matter what, the taste of the dish wasn't bad. It was unexpectedly good. But the key was the taste. Using chicken to cook this dish, it was hard to bring out the full taste. The chicken had a soft texture, and if it was placed in the flatbread, it would lose its original taste. It wasn't a mistake, but it could become the root of Huang Haoyan's failure. The judges weren't easy to deal with. The judges exchanged looks, seeing the choice in each other's eyes. The four of them smiled at each other. Then, they turned to look at Huang Haoyan. Now, I'll announce the final winner of the Top 10 Challenge. Bufong's Abyssal Stone Pot Fighting Chicken and Huang Haoyan's Heaven Immortal Roast Chicken. The winner is... A judge announced loudly. His words attracted the gazes of everyone present. Many people frowned, gazing at the judge. Everybody held their breaths. The winner is... Bufong's Abyssal Stone Pot Fighting Chicken. The judge announced loudly. His voice reverberated in the entire arena, moving around the entire Heaven Tree Square. It was silent. It was so quiet that people felt a little embarrassed. The audience couldn't believe it. They were so shocked that they didn't know what to say. When the others heard the news, they could only breathe hard. He won. Huang Haoyan lost. How could it be? How could something like that happen? How could Huang Haoyan lose? Many people were bewildered, and they didn't know what to say. However, the final result was out, and they couldn't change it. Anyway, they didn't need to change it. Just like how Bufong was confident in his cooking, the judges were also confident in their judgment. Silence ensued for a while. Clamor. The audience burst into an uproar, shooting up to the sky. Oh my God, he lost. Huang Haoyan lost to the great demon. I told you my eyelids twitched. Something bad was about to happen. Turns out I was right. The great demon defeated Huang Haoyan. Unbelievable. The chicken nugget defeated 3 whole chicken dishes. I'm afraid I'm watching a fake competition. The audience exclaimed, one after another. They couldn't believe that Huang Haoyan would lose. The winner is Bufong. The referee finally made his decision and read out Bufong's name in a loud voice. The others were scared out of their wits. Dong Fenghe was upset and unwilling. He lost again. Huang Haoyan was bewildered. He didn't understand why he lost. After getting a hold of himself, he wanted to find an explanation. However, the judge didn't explain much to him. He directly threw him a piece of fighting chicken. After Huang Haoyan tasted it, his face changed instantly. This taste, outside the arena, at the entrance, a graceful figure slowly floated up and gracefully sat in the spectators' seats, watching the match in the arena. That person was City Lord Mingqi. Although she didn't watch the competition, the result was enough to surprise her. The genius of the 5th layer, Heaven Chief Huang Haoyan, was defeated? Bufong. The little chef who defeated Huang Haoyan is called Bufong. It seems he's the chef who has a special relationship with that dog. Chapter 1054. Huang Haoyan had never thought that he would lose. He had lost to a heaven chief from the first layer. He was bewildered at his spot. His mouth was still filled with the taste of the chicken. Because of his immortal tongue, he could control the taste to a terrifying level. He could feel the taste of the chicken in his mouth. In just a blink of an eye, it had spread out, making him shiver uncontrollably. The moment he ate the chicken nugget, he knew that he had lost. He also knew why he had lost. He had lost because of the ingredients. His cooking method wasn't wrong. However, using chicken to cook was his biggest mistake. Before cooking, he had hesitated because he knew that duck was the most suitable ingredient for this dish. Perhaps it was because he had underestimated Bufong, but Huang Haoyan had thought that even if he used chicken to cook this dish, he could still win. However, this time he was wrong. He had to pay the price for his underestimation. In the face of Bufong, his dish was crushed. Bufong's chicken nuggets had thoroughly unleashed the delicious taste of chicken, and there was not the slightest hint of impurities. His dish, on the other hand, had suppressed the original taste of the chicken. Although his dish was also delicious, he had lost in the subtlety. It was just a small mistake. However, in the competition, this mistake seemed to be magnified infinitely. It had become his downfall. Huang Haoyan staggered for a while. His face paled unceasingly. This match, Bufong wins. Bufong successfully challenged Huang Haoyan. His rank is 10th. The referee's voice echoed through the entire arena, making people burst into an uproar. Huang Haoyan had lost. The Great Demon had successfully advanced to the 10th place of this year's Heaven Chief competition. The Great Demon had entered the top 10. Outside the arena, Gong Shu Ban was bewildered, listening to the words in his ears. It was like a dream. Honor Bu had entered the top 10. This F*King exciting. After a moment of bewilderment, Gong Shu Ban excitedly swung his fists, his mouth roaring. Damn, Honor Bu is awesome. Gong Shu Ban was so excited. He had never thought that Bufong could defeat the 10th contestant and enter the top 10. This was something he didn't even dare to think about. In the first layer of the Heaven Chief realm, the Heaven Chief was far behind the Heaven Chief of the other layers in terms of resources and talent. Every Heaven Chief competition was a one-day event. Even if someone managed to get into the top 200, they would be eliminated at the 100th place. Now, Bufong had created a new record and entered the 10th place. This was simply a leap between heaven and earth. Bufong wasn't that excited, but the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. He had finally made it into the top 10. The system's temporary quest was half complete. Now, he just had to enter the Heaven Tree and obtain the Heaven Tree Seed to complete the system's first temporary quest. However, Bufong was still clueless about the second mission. The second task was to condense the Heart of Cooking Path. Until now, he still didn't know what the Heart of Cooking Path was. Thus, the joy in Bufong's heart wasn't as much as he had imagined. Buzz, the magic array under his feet sparkled. Instantly, a teleportation array emerged, and the crystal knife cabinet emerged. Zhou Quangliu, Dongfang Hua, and Huang Haoyan were defeated, which meant that they had failed the chef's challenge. Thus, they had to accept their punishment. As the three of them were bleeding, their kitchen knives dashed toward Bufong. Zhou Quangliu's kitchen knife was just a middle-grade immortal tool. Dongfang Hua had changed to another knife. It wasn't the silver pterosaur bone knife, but its grade wasn't bad either. It was also a high-grade immortal tool. Huang Haoyan's kitchen knife was the most dazzling among the three. Although it was just a dull black color, when the three knives were placed together, the radiance they released was so dazzling. It was Huang Haoyan's favorite knife. After playing with it for a while, Bufong put the three knives into the cabinet. He exhaled gently. Huang Haoyan's heart was bleeding. However, this chef challenge was recognized by the Great Path, so he couldn't reject it. Huang Haoyan roared unwillingly. His eyes reddened. He felt so aggrieved after losing this match. The audience was dead silent. The great demon was the great demon. Even the top 10 heaven chief couldn't subdue him. Seizing the chance, he soared to the sky. The great demon was born to harvest kitchen knives. The judge gave Bu Fong a deep look. He wasn't surprised to see Bu Fong collecting kitchen knives. Outside the arena, Shui Yao and Meng Kuan didn't know what to say. Huang Haoyan had failed miserably. He was defeated by a heaven chief from the first layer, and his kitchen knife was confiscated. The great demon is worthy of being the great demon. He has brought us a sense of urgency, Shui Yao sighed. She couldn't deny that her judgment of Bu Fong was wrong. Now, I'm a little curious about who the great demon king will challenge next. Looking at the great demon king's appearance, it's impossible for him to stay in 10th place. He will definitely continue to challenge. Who will he choose as his next opponent? Meng Kuan was a little curious. You or me? Shui Yao looked at Meng Kuan, saying. A moment later, the two of them felt chilled. A sense of nervousness shrouded their hearts. Who would Bu Fong choose for the next match? Everybody was curious. However, Bu Fong didn't make up his mind that fast. Putting away the cabinet, Bu Fong lifted his head to look at the judge next to him. He frowned, asking, I have a question. Can I? The judge was a little surprised. It was the first time Bu Fong had taken the initiative to talk to him. He was a little overwhelmed. You can ask, what's the heart of cooking path? Who among the top 10 has the heart of cooking path? Bu Fong asked. The judge was bewildered. He didn't think that Bu Fong would ask such a question. After organizing his thoughts, the judge said, the heart of cooking path is actually a mysterious term. To be more specific, it's a state of cooking. Condensing the heart of cooking path, once it's activated during the cooking process, it will improve the chef's abilities in all aspects. No matter if it's mental force, perception, exquisite taste control, or fire control, they will all have a qualitative improvement. One of the prerequisites to become a third-grade heaven chief is to condense the heart of cooking path. The earlier you condense the heart of cooking path, the better it will be for you to reach a higher realm in the future. The judge said. Bu Fong nodded. It turned out that this was the heart of cooking path that the system had mentioned. It was a state of cooking. Bu Fong wasn't a stranger to this state. Sometimes, when he was cooking, he would enter this state. His control over all aspects of cooking would be improved. Come to think of it, he had almost condensed the heart of cooking path. He was just one step away, and the system wanted him to complete this step in the competition, successfully condensing the heart of cooking path. As for the top 10, who have condensed the heart of cooking path? The judge looked at Bu Fong, taking a deep breath. Among the top 10, the top 5 have condensed the heart of cooking path. The top 5 have condensed the heart of cooking path. Bu Fong was stunned. He didn't think that the probability would be so high. This year is the most monstrous one. The top 5 are all monstrous geniuses from the 5th floor of Heaven Chief Realm. Lu Yi is the most monstrous of them all. The judge said. The judge didn't know what Bu Fong wanted to know, but he still told the truth. However, he still told the truth. He wasn't afraid of hurting Bu Fong. If he could be hurt that easily, he wouldn't deserve to be called the Great Demon King. Now that you've understood, have you thought about who you want to challenge next? The judge smiled, making the atmosphere relax. Bu Fong looked at the judge, the corner of his mouth twitching. No need to think. I'll directly challenge the strongest. That way, I'll have enough pressure. Bu Fong said casually. Then, he turned around, preparing to walk down the stage. The judge was bewildered. Directly challenge the strongest. What did he mean? Wait a minute. The judge suddenly thought of something, taking in a breath of cold air. Was the great demon crazy? Did he want to directly challenge the strongest Lu Yi? Directly challenge Lu Yi, who ranked first in the Heaven Chief Realm. The judge didn't know what to say. The great demon was indeed the great demon. Crazy enough. Bu Fong turned around, walking down the stage. That's right. He wanted to directly challenge Lu Yi, the champion. If he wanted to condense the heart of cooking path, he needed enough pressure. The pressure Huang Haoyan gave him wasn't enough. Bu Fong was too lazy to feel the pressure step by step. Thus, he directly chose the strongest. Whether he could succeed or not, it depended on himself. Boom! Boom! All of a sudden, the moment Bufong was about to leave the stage, the space in front of the arena was suddenly torn apart, and a violent roar immediately erupted. Everybody, who was immersed in shock, was bewildered. Taking a breath of cold air, they looked over there. An icy cold aura diffused from that void crack. A figure slowly walked out with his hands clasped behind his back. On the stage, City Lord Mengqi, who had just stood up, furrowed her brows, looking at the stage. Without a doubt, City Lord Feng had come. If Mengqi could think of the relationship between Bufong and that dog, City Lord Feng would also think of it. If Mengqi wasn't wrong, the other city lords would appear soon. At that time, it would be interesting. However, Mengqi suddenly furrowed her brows. She felt that City Lord Feng's appearance and aura were somewhat different. Wasn't it too brutal? Bufong halted his steps. He narrowed his eyes and looked coldly in front of him. From there, City Lord Feng slowly walked out. It's the City Lord of the 5th layer. How could City Lord Feng, the dog meat grandmaster, appear here? Why did he stop the Great Demon? Did the Great Demon cheat? Impossible. Even if he cheated, the City Lord shouldn't have done it himself. The audience sucked in a breath of cold air. Feeling the terrifying, murderous aura from City Lord Feng, their bodies shivered. It was the murderous aura of a Qilin chef. What had the Great Demon done to anger a Qilin chef? Boom, boom, boom. The crack closed. City Lord Feng's cold eyes fell on Bufong. It was the first time Bufong felt his heart palpitate. It was a wave of palpitation that came from his soul. His entire body felt a little cold. You're the owner of that restaurant, Bufong? City Lord Feng said indifferently. Every word was filled with brutality. City Lord Mengqi furrowed her brows. She felt more and more strange. Even if it's because of that dog, he shouldn't vent his anger on an ordinary heaven chief. City Lord Feng is a little too much. Mengqi stood up, slowly walking down the auditorium. Finally, someone noticed Mengqi, and they screamed in surprise. Goddess Mengqi's voice rose and fell. The City Lord of the 4th layer, Mengqi, was indeed the goddess in many heaven chiefs' eyes. City Lord Feng seemed to feel Mengqi's discontented mood. His mind flickered, and he didn't hesitate anymore. A moment later, he took action. He took action? Everybody was bewildered. Bufong furrowed his brows. The vermilion robe on his body stirred, turning scarlet. City Lord Feng, don't. The referee's face changed. His figure flashed, standing in front of Bufong. He wanted to block City Lord Feng's attack, but his body felt like it was hit by a heavy hammer. His mind shivered, and he vomited blood as he was sent flying backward, crashing into the arena. The impact created a deep hole in the arena. The audience was stunned. Everybody was stunned. City Lord Feng really wanted to kill the Great Demon. Tell me, where's that dog? City Lord Feng retracted his hand after injuring the referee. He looked down at Bufong with boundless killing intent as he calmly said. Bufong's heart shivered. City Lord Feng's target was the Lord Go. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.